says Barbara on it, so.
Okay, I would like to call the Town of Belgrade Board of Select Persons meeting of April 4th to order, and we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. On behalf of the board, I wish to welcome you to our meeting. We appreciate visitors from the public and trust your attendance will be beneficial to all of us. We feel it is very important for interested persons to know about the functions of our town government and for us to be aware of what is important to the community. You are invited to participate in the meeting in accordance with the policy and rules established by the board. And we learned 2 weeks ago that this was written in 2009 by Mary Vogel. And has now been revived. So Lorna, do we have a quorum? You do. We do. Okay. Established a quorum, all 5 of us. I would like to make a motion to open the meeting.
Second.
Thank you. The first item is public comment. If there is anyone who has something to bring to the attention of the board that's not on our agenda tonight. No. Okay, seeing none, we'll move to the presentation and discussion of the RSU 18 budget with Superintendent Carl Bentley.
So what do I connect to?
I'm not the technology.
So, Carl, are you connected to the internet right now?
I am connected to your guest Wi-Fi.
Yeah, so if so, you can get to the internet and join. Can you join via Zoom?
I can.
And if so, then at that point.
Is there a link on your website?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which we're on.
Once you do that, you can then share. It'll allow you to present.
Oh, you have, let's see, where more on your website. Let's see, and you know where the link is. I see, oh. Selectboard Meeting. Right there, thank you so much, appreciate it.
There.
And if it gets echoey, you may want to turn down your speaker. In case it does.
I'm gonna do that.
There you go. Gee, you're in 2 places at one time.
Okay, now you say I could share.
Oh, he has to be a co-host, right? to share?
Right, well, we can do that here, right? So with screen share. Laura, would you be able to go down to screen share and then I think it's allow multiple? That one. Yeah, multiple participants.
Does it allow him to cry?
Trying.
There you are. I see you.
We need his PowerPoint.
Yeah, but he would have that.
No, it's not letting me
Okay.
share. It's great, the share option is great out.
Share.
I will start going, oops.
If you go down a little bit, so advanced
It did.
share.
Yeah, there we go.
Multiple.
Yeah, and then who can share all participants as collected?
Should it be one participant can share at a time? All participants.
So
Yeah, we want-
that should be all.
All participants.
All, and then who can start sharing when someone else?
Oh, now it's host only, so you have to say all.
All.
I can't change that.
You can?
No, see, it's grayed out. It's, see the difference in the type versus.
Well, what about the one at the bottom?
You can't.
Can you put one participant at a time at the top?
Yeah.
And then do all
There.
participants at the bottom.
There, there.
Try that. Carl.
Okay, share. Now it's great, click right up for me. Let me see. Zoom, and it's not letting me.
You were there. The owl, no, the owl was looking at you, never mind. You go down to the green on the bottom there, Carl, where it says share screen. And
Yeah, that's where I'm clicking, and it asks for Microsoft PowerPoint. Yeah. And it's just giving me,
So Carl, we'd love to invite you back to our next meeting.
let me talk just a little bit. And I can probably answer questions and get you what you need. I see a few people on the screen. They're probably gonna get bored of me just standing here trying to fix this, so I will go. So the first thing I was going to just talk about, whenever I do a budget conversation, I like you to know what you're getting. I know, our budget's $43 million. We pay a lot of money for education. I think it's important to know what you're getting. Cost per student, I always put up, and I'll just sort of flash a screen to you guys, but this is just a little bar graph showing, the cost per school districts in central Maine. We're right in the middle. I just put a pin on a map, put around Messalonsky, and say, all right, all the school districts in central Maine. If I, it's Gardner, Augusta, Waterville, Winslow, Erskine, I take a look at all the school districts, say, how much do we cost per school, per student? And we're dead center in the middle. There's 11 schools in central Maine. We're 6th. So our cost per student is not overly high. Now, then I try to flash to how do we do academically? And then I pull, and there's, well, everybody puts different stake in standardized testing. We do NUIA testing as a test, a state assessment called NUIA. We take this 3 times a year. They just released the data for the fall test. We do it fall, winter, and spring. They released that a couple months ago now. And we were the top scoring district in math and in reading. And we were 2nd in science. There was one school that did better in science. So for what you're getting for an education for your dollars, you have an excellent school district. I am extremely proud of RSU 18. We have the best school district in central Maine. Granted, I'm biased, but by most data points, any data point you want to find, we are a top school district. So that is a very nice thing to be able to just tell you. Budget. The budget that I assume now. Sarah is aware of this, sharing a little bit. So the world in the state, the finances in the last 2 or 3 days has gone a little topsy-turvy. State subsidy, they found an error in state subsidy, so things have changed a little bit. The budget I have been proposing was just under $43 million, $42.9 million. That's up 2.93%. So in this world of inflation with 7 and 8% inflation, the district we I think are very fiscally responsible. So the budget is up 2.93%. The board, and that is a proposed budget. The board, I don't. The principals do a budget, they pass it to me. I work with people, I do the budget, I pass it to the board, they adopt a budget, they pass it to the taxpayers, then it becomes the real budget. So the board will be adopting the budget tomorrow night. So once they adopt the budget, then that's what will go forward to taxpayers. But what I've been proposing all along to the board is a 2.93% increase budget, which I think is very reasonable. Driving forces in our budget are honestly, it's salaries, insurance, health insurance, and fuel costs. There's not a lot of increase in this budget other than those basic things. Maine State retirement was up a pretty good chunk. That was a pretty big increase. So like 100,000. But for the most part, our budget is up. Just to keep competitive and to meet new minimum wage requirements and salary requirements. We're up. That's what is causing our budget to go up 2.93%. There's not a lot other than that. Now, again, the board will adopt the budget tomorrow night. And the reason I say it's gotten a little crazy in the last week is when the state made an error, they said the error was in the calculation of the mill rate, which determines how much towns have to pay for EPS, essential programs and services. So that is how much I have to charge each town. EPS and state subsidy make up the majority of the budget, and then additional local funds, stuff above and beyond those two categories. So they made a mistake in the mill rate. They changed it from 7.23 at the end of last week to 6.97. And I can send you this presentation so that you have all these numbers. So they changed that mill rate. Now, what that does is, so the town of Belgrade, instead of, let's see, well, again, it's a little bit depends on what the board does, but it drops what every town has to pay. Your portion will drop. The max would be, 225,000. If the board increases the budget, then that savings would diminish a little bit. That has your increase up about 2.5% over last year. So the budget will be up 2.93. You'd be up about 2.5 if all that money goes back to taxpayers. My recommendation to the board is all, or at least most of it, will be going back to taxpayers. That's what I think the intent of that extra subsidy is. Now, that doesn't mean the board can't look at a few things that they say, we didn't put this in the budget because we wanted to keep it low. They could look at a few things, but I don't think they will be looking at a lot. But I don't speak for my board, just like I'm sure Lorna would not want to speak for you folks. But this stuff is all happening right now. So I'm trying to give you the most updated information we have. So usually when that mill rate drops, what happens is the money has to come from someplace else, and it either comes from state subsidy or additional local funds. I expected when I heard the mill rate was going to drop that there would be some of each. The state decided to increase the state subsidy the exact amount the mill rate caused EPS to drop. So it didn't change additional local at all. So we lost $700,000 out of what towns had to pay. We gained $700,000 back in state subsidy. So it basically just shifted $700,000 from taxpayer responsibilities to state subsidy. So it was a good thing. It shook my confidence a little bit. And when that's a big $42 million mistake is a pretty good sized mistake, but it is what it is. But as far as our taxpayers, it shifted the responsibility more to state subsidy as opposed to what your citizens will have to pay. Let's see, what else do I want to hit for you? As far as the articles, there's not a lot of big changes in any of them. They're all up a couple of percent, and which is. And our budget is pretty simple this year as far other than salaries. There's not a lot of big things to talk to you about. I guess I could. What do you have questions before I don't want to just keep going on and I'm curious if you have questions or you want me to talk more about additional local, or that was a topic I was told that somebody might have asked. I think somebody gave Sarah that question. So I didn't know if you wanted, but do you have other questions you want to ask? Do you want me to keep going? Do you want me to talk about additional local? Do you have what you need? I don't want to take up all your time.
I have a question about some specific programs that I've heard are valued in Belgrade.
Sure.
One is the 5th grade chorus.
All of our 5th grade students across the district get music class. We have the principals a few years back requested not to do 2 music classes a week. So we just do one. All 5th graders get music every week.
Okay. And is that equal among all the district, all the schools?
All the elementary schools get
in the district
get music once a week. Now, the 2 middle schools, one of our middle schools starts in 5th grade, one of them starts in 6th grade. So everything's different. Oh, well, a lot of things are different in the middle schools, like I would say, like in the elementary schools, our title, we have Title I intervention services, so the middle schools don't have it. So there are some differences between because 5th grade in one of our middle schools is at the middle school. So there's a lot of things they don't get art every week. They don't get music every week. A lot of those things become elective classes. But for the most part,
And so the official chorus program starts in middle.
It starts in middle school.
Okay, that was the question.
Oh, that's a good
And
question.
just sort of looking ahead at the pre-K program,
Yeah,
is there any sense district-wide that that would eventually become full day?
there hasn't been a push. It is top, there's conversation about full day pre-K and 3-year-old pre-K. Well, we don't have a pre-K, we have a 4-year-old program. Because you can't be 5 or you can't be 3, you have to be 4 to be in our pre-kindergarten program. So we haven't, as a district, there's never been a huge push to go to full day. There's like, okay, so kindergarten used to be half day, then it was kindergarten became full day. So then we started half day pre-K, and then there's been some resistance to say, well, let's make that, because then it sort of, does it just turn into kindergarten? But I can see both ways.
Uh-huh.
There's advantages and disadvantages. Right now, we do 4 days a week, half day.
Uh-huh. And what about transportation? Are the students transported, or is that up to the parents?
That is up to the parents. Has been, I think, well, it has been since I joined the district back in 2010. And the 2 districts that merged, both of them did have the same philosophy on that. But that is what we've always done.
Mhm. Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Well, I have a question, just in general. Are you having trouble filling vacancies at all? I know it's a challenge for a lot of businesses and.
Yeah, probably the hourly wage, at some of the ed tech positions, we have a little bit of difficulty. Teaching positions, we haven't struggled too much. We haven't had vacant, we've been able to fill all vacancies in our professional teaching positions. Part-time, a 4-hour monitor position, going into the school part-time to K-8 for a morning. Those positions have become more challenging. We've had to make some full-time, and it's still a little bit of a challenge. Some of our special education positions that are not always attractive to, people, that are making, minimum wage or, 14 or 15 bucks an hour. Some of those positions are still a little difficult. Those are probably bus drivers. We've been lucky, we've been able to keep a full staff, but it's not, it's one of the ones I worry about a lot, just because if we lost a couple, I worry we're actually doing a training, the spring training. We have 3 or 4 doing training right now, trying to, get them ready to take over. Because that's a staff that is potential some retirees in the next year or 2.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
What about substitute teachers? Are you having a problem?
Subs is always a challenge, but the ones we have are phenomenal. Subs is anything that's part-time or less, it's more transient, I think, by nature. Those are the ones that are the difficult ones right now.
Well, I know when my kids were there, the chorus program that the Ryan's running was top notch. And one of their concerns as that program was being somewhat phased out was that there was more emphasis being put on the athletes and less on the arts. And I kind of want to know what the balance is moving forward, because I don't have anyone in the high school right now.
Yeah.
But I know that if it weren't for the chorus program, none of my 3 kids would have felt
Our
part of the school system.
Our arts program is, and for as long as I can remember, the arts program at Messalonskee High School has been phenomenal. And I would say it still is. I mean, our new chorus teacher, been there only 2 or 3 years, but is absolutely excellent. And that program is continuing to thrive. I mean, the pandemic obviously did not help. Our music, program, the numbers did drop a little bit, when your band had to be outdoors, that was not as attractive to be standing out in the cold trying to play an instrument. So it did hit some numbers, and chorus had to spread out all over the auditorium just to just to participate. So our numbers did take a little bit of a hit, but they have rebounded since, this last year and a half or so. And that program is just thriving. I couldn't agree more. I don't see any slant towards sports versus music or drama. I mean, every program thinks, oh, I wish we had what the other, our sports programs think that drama gets a lot, get anything they want, and drama programs think the sports get everything they want. So I mean,
I've
but
never heard
yeah.
that flip flop, Carl, where the athletes were like, damn, I wish we was better drawing class. Never.
No. I didn't, that's all, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying they think, wow, we, these programs are, our drama program kids are envious of our great sports facility. Our sports kids are envious of, I mean, we've invested a ton in the auditorium this last couple of years, putting in a new sound system, a new video streaming system that has been great because we can broadcast, concerts and you can actually see people. I mean, the old system, you couldn't, tell the difference. You couldn't tell anybody on stage was, and now they're crystal clear. Put in a new lighting system, a new sound system. It's an unbelievable facility.
Thank you, Susan.
Yes, thank you, Susan. She was a big advocate for that, and I think she got everything she wanted. That was the norm.
And what about safety in the school? I mean, that's clearly gonna be number one, and that's
Yeah,
always been a
safety has
concern
been,
there
I mean,
for
for,
folks coming in and having. So this, I'm just gonna tell you what I've heard in the past was that someone could come into the school and be carrying, and by the time they got into the school and down the hall past the office, they wouldn't even have been noticed. So, and I know there were some things where you had to swipe your badge to get in and things like that, and I just wanna see, are we still in that same thing where folks cannot enter the school unless they are identified?
yeah, you have to get buzzed into the school. I mean, obviously, all employees have the swipe card. The doors are open until 7:15 or something like that in the morning when the kids are arriving. But after that, you have to get buzzed in. Again, during the pandemic, it became a little complicated because our hallways were only allowed to be one direction. So they had to walk outside and come in another door. So that made it a little difficult to lock the doors. But yeah, we do the buzzes. We have done this year, tabletop exercises with, we had the police, the firemen, safety management, and we brought in safety teams from each school building, and where they were presented with scenarios, and it was, and somebody is walking down the hall that is not, you don't recognize, they don't have a visitor's badge, they don't have this, they seem agitated, and when someone asked them what they were doing, they said they were looking for their daughter because it was their birthday and they wanted to surprise them. So that was one of our scenarios. And then the team has to huddle quickly and say, what do you do? And the police sat there and fired questions at them and said, what do you do? What if they say this? What if they do this? Then the scenario would go on to, notice there's a possibility you still might see a firearm on their side. What do you do? And then we just went through those scenarios. And we also, so we went through some fire safety. We did a chemical one because, we have some train tracks and open, go through those. So we did several scenarios, but, you'll never hear me say that our buildings are 100. I mean, could someone walk in? Yeah. If a student, when a student comes to the door and buzzes in, they're let in. They're not searched. So could I say that a student could ever walk in with a weapon? I couldn't say that. But the doors are locked. People have to buzz in. They have to, be a reason to be there. We practice scenarios. We do lockdown drills. We do fire drills. We do evacuation drills. We have evacuation sites. We brought in main school management. We send teachers to conferences. I've sent my officers to conferences all over the country to learn latest techniques. I would say we do more than just about any, district out there on these things, but could I say that it could ever happen? No.
Oh, but can we crawl about the bags that we keep in the
We have,
office?
one of the things we did for evacuations this year, in case there's an accident, we have a go bag. So we have a bag in the office. If there's an emergency, you grab it. It has a laptop, it has a hotspot. It has an intercom, it has vests. So whoever's incident commander wears the vest. It has everybody. So every role there's two staff assigned to every role. So reunification with parents, checking parents' IDs. So you grab a bag, we have one at every school. You grab a bag, we go. So Belgrade Central, when they evacuated down because of power, they evacuated down to the center down here. whichever direction. Yeah, I was gonna say, it's not that, but you know, they have the go bag. We have a list, we have a laptop, we can get onto the we have a hotspot, we get onto the school's Wi-Fi. We have backup paper copies in it, and we're ready to run an evacuation site from off location. Just you know, for safety, that was one of the, our officers got back from a training in Colorado, that was one of the recommendations, and those are in every building, and we have protocols where they have to be charged every, you know, like this, we have to do quarterly reports in the school, and when they do the quarterly report, you charge your go bag. So it's, you know, things like that have been a big plus.
Also the window coverings too.
Window coverings, we did a shade project, so there's, you know.
An intruder can't see inside the.
Yeah, so, you know, all that stuff to try to help out safety is the best we can.
Everything except for have people with guns.
We have 2 resource officers. I would like a third, because I think resource officers are the best way to stop bad things from happening.
Only way,
It's proven, and our resource officers, I trust them. Oakland PD is in our Oakland schools a lot, and the last couple of years, we've been sending our resource officers 1 day a week out to Belgrade and China and Sydney, so that their presence in that school. You know, with 2, obviously, we can't be in 8 schools every single day, but you know, the resource officers are a godsend.
Is there any talk on the table of teachers being able to carry?
Yeah, I've heard it brought up a couple of times at the state, and it has never gained any momentum across the state.
I mean, it's Maine, you think like, you know, half the people that have firearms, they're proficient, you know, they're comfortable.
I would say half is probably understand.
Right.
But yeah,
I mean, I can understand in other states, you know, hesitancy, but
Yeah.
in this state, I think it'd be a no-brainer.
Right. Any other questions?
Sarah.
Oh, Sarah.
I just, security is a area in the district that Sharon and I would really feel glowing about it. What Mr. Gully didn't tell you is that he has a code for a card that he swipe it or push it in, and all the schools are done. That he needs to have. So,
our technology is pretty strong. The other budget thing I'll talk about, the additional local, I was asked to talk about that, and you guys can cut me off whenever you want, so you're not offended if you just say, we've heard enough, have a great night, see you later. But, you know, additional local is a popular thing because that is, you know, assigned by different, so what just happened with the budget is a perfect example. So the mill rate dropped, that meant EPS is gonna go down. Money should either go to additional local or state subsidy. The state says, we're gonna do it all with state subsidy. I don't blame them. They made a $42 million mistake. Give a little more state subsidy and made all the problems go away real quick, so you didn't have to answer as many questions. So if I made a $42 million mistake, I would be looking for some ways to make everybody feel a little happier as well. So they gave us that money in state subsidy. So, you know, so it sort of that whole harmless philosophy. But normally that would go to, you know, some to state subsidy, some to additional local. Over the years, EPS has only gone up. From I pulled back, I started at the end of 2016, 2017. I pulled the 2016 budget. It's only about $100,000 less than it is today. Essential programs and services, those only for 2016 is only about $100,000, $120,000 more. Does anybody think education only cost $100,000 more than it did in 2016? Of course not. When people see additional local funds going up a lot, the natural thing is, well, the budget is so high. Our budget, if you look at spending of any school district, we are lower than most. We're in line. We do not have exorbitant costs. But if state subsidy doesn't go up, and it hasn't gone up, it's only gone up about $3 million in that time period. And EPS doesn't go up, it's gonna fall on additional local. That's a political strategy. I'm not saying it's right, wrong, good, bad, or otherwise. But additional local that's where the money has to come from if we don't get it from someplace else.
So Carl, just so that everyone here.
Yeah, I'm using a lot of acronyms and stuff, aren't I?
So EPS, if we did a diagram like this, essential programs and services is the base cost for everybody to reach the same levels. That's what the state determines we have to pitch in.
Correct.
Okay?
And we don't get the state subsidy unless we do that.
And where does that money come from? That comes directly from our
Taxpayer.
taxes, okay? So then above that is the state subsidy, so that fills in the middle gap.
Correct,
And then anything above the state subsidy is what we pay as property taxes.
additional local. Now,
Additional.
there are a couple other, Melanie, like, we have miscellaneous revenues. We have, 600,000 of miscellaneous revenues. I'm using $500,000 of fund balance in this year's budget. So, but those are small numbers compared to the
So
43
when you
million
see using 500 of fund balance, is that like the undesignated? fund?
undesignated fund balance.
Out of the savings account that we've
Correct.
already paid into to offset the.
To lower taxes.
for this year.
So in this year's revenue plan, to come up with the budget, I'm using 500,000. So, but you are 100% correct. You have EPS, state subsidy, that's most of it. The other chunk, almost all of the other chunk is additional local, and then there's a little bit of other stuff, but, yes, that's what it is.
Thank you.
No problem. But that additional local, I know, is a lightning rod in all of our towns, and because, why does that keep going up? I mean, like I said, we've had years with flat, we actually had a year with a negative budget, where additional local went up a lot, because we got less state subsidy, if you get less. The mill rate in 2016, the mill rate, which determines how much towns has to pay, was 8.23. So the mill rate's gone from 8.23 to 6.97. So what, that's going to make additional local go through the roof no matter what I do for a budget. And I feel bad about that, but it is what it is. If I thought our school district was wasting money, I would try to step in and stop it, but
How are we doing on the building repair, all the water problems we've had and asbestos problems we've had? I know because we've budgeted money for it. They've approved the money for it. I just want to make sure the stuff's been done.
it is being done. Our facilities look fantastic. The roofs look great. Air handling systems have been replaced. Those are things that nobody sees, but those are being done. Asbestos is being taken care of. New windows.
Wasn't a lot of the air systems though part of the COVID money?
Air handling systems have been part of every part of money. There was part of the facilities bond. We've done, since I've been superintendent, I've done 3 rounds of revolving renovation fund for those, and we had COVID money. So those are like the one I did at the high school last year was $3 million. From any place I can get it. So, yes, we've spent some of the COVID money on that, but we've also spent revolving renovation fund, facilities bond, and regular budget.
How much did we end up with COVID money?
About $12 to $13 million. We have till September 2025 to finish spending that. And then every year I have to send in a sheet that says that we didn't use that for stuff that was supposed to be in the regular budget. And then, so it can't be used to reduce the budget. And I have to show how much the budget was, how many FTEs we had. And if those numbers go down, then they reduce our state subsidy, because that's not what it was for. Now, I have used that money the best I possibly could, instead of just to do facility stuff, transportation cost, stuff that would lower the budget over 20 years. So instead of just paying a bunch of teachers in one year and having a great year that year, but then that money's gone, now I gotta pay for those teachers again, and the next year the budget goes through the roof. We've tried to do cost roofs, air handling units, so that, we don't have to go out for facilities bonds and that the district is more fiscally healthy. It's actually been very successful. I'm happy to send a sheet on that if you guys would like.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yes,
That's an easy one.
Yeah.
And if you ever want to sit down and talk, just come in and see me and I can show you however level of detail you want to be bored with. But that money has, I have opinions on how much money we should have got versus got, but we got that money. That our district has taken an approach to use that to help the district financially for the long term. And this year alone, we were going to take out a loan, in our sort of a rotation of property maintenance that we do, and we didn't have to take out that debt. So we've reduced our debt by quite a bit, and those are just things that, those are the reasons why we have a 2.93% budget. And if you look around central Maine, you're gonna see 6, 7, 10, 12% increases at districts. I just think our board, our administrators have done a good job with that money. They haven't gotten greedy and they've looked long-term instead of short-term.
Any more questions? Okay, well, thank you, Carl, and if you could send us. The budget,
Absolutely, I'll send you that
particularly
presentation, and like I said.
And after the board votes the budget, if you can.
I will
send
send you
us
the budget, I'll send you the consolidated
Consolidated.
and the other ones, the consolidated one, something you could actually print and find more useful.
Right, and also the facilities information, the DNS for.
Very good. It was nice to see you all.
Tell them try not to spend all that money that they screwed up on.
Like I
Yeah,
said,
we're getting out of that, we're getting 220 something
Maybe if they
that we
don't
don't have to
spend it,
pay.
maybe if they,
Thousands.
if they don't spend it.
We actually got the town that have the most money back in that sense.
I would be extremely surprised if, I would say. I would expect the overwhelming majority of that money to go back to taxpayers.
Hope so.
I'd be disappointed and our board doesn't really disappoint. They're pretty fiscally responsible, so.
And will that money go back sort of proportionately? So those towns who pay more cost per student? Or
Yeah, it comes right off the mill rate, so that would look, so Belgrade, so like I said, your savings, if all of it would be given back, would be around 225,000. Where, Oakland's, if all they get back would be around 175,000, so it would be proportionally because of the mill rate, that's what the towns that pay the most would.
We don't want to be charging anything, we just want to be charging less.
No, I understand that, but I'm just saying that the benefit, Belgrade and Rome
It goes back.
pay more in, the other towns don't. I assume we're gonna get more back than they would. pay
Rome
back.
doesn't pay, they only pay 4.5 mils, so they wouldn't get any money back, but that's Rome.
Okay,
Yeah, so because they don't pay the whole mill, they only pay half the mill rate, so, that they're in a completely different,
different piece.
different. Funding scenario, and any of you folks too, if you ever want to talk, please come into the office anytime, please, anytime, I'd love to chat. Oh, Susan will, yeah, Susan will.
Yeah.
Just
Okay,
like
thank
old
you.
times.
We'll get
Okay.
the technology issues fixed.
I know that might be
Next time.
me as well, it didn't join in, but,
And that was a woman, he has great graphs. Yeah.
Bye-bye.
no problem, thank you guys very much for inviting me.
Okay, thank you, Carl.
Please, I will stop.
Steve,
So you want to do something like this?
Yes.
It's yours now.
that's excellent, right?
So the,
So this is what we're talking about.
Yeah,
State subsidy.
yeah, the EPS, you mentioned, it's called, EPS is Essential Programs and Services. So that would be, let me show you this, put it close in. Just for the audience, because it's hard to follow. He knows all this stuff out of, just like that, but the audience don't. So the budget is the same level for everybody. And so the expenditures are there are like 3,000 items in the expenditure lines of 11 articles. It's humongous. I mean, we couldn't even print it here. It's like 100 pages of it, 30 items per page, something like that. And so that's the side of the expenditure of the budget. People can see that. And then the other portion that is so easy for him to go back and forth because it's revenues and expenditures. So the revenues part of the budget, same level here, right? You can see it in the.
It's a- Yeah,
Yeah.
There we go, it's better. So that was expenditure side, 11 articles, 3,000 lines, $43 million. Then that's expenditure part. Then the revenue part, the bottom part of it, this bottom part here is the subsidy. And then the EPS is what goes above that to go to this line here, or it's difficult to see over there. That line there is what the state says is going to cost the RSU to run the district, right here, that line. So from here down is 80% of the whole budget. Then this yellow portion that I put in there is what we call the additional local funds. And it could have been almost 11 million in additional local funds. but two things had happened, and is that, the superintendent very effectively get federal money. It could be over here, all the expenses with this extra line. He shaved that off. I'm surprised that he didn't mention any of that. That's in benefit of the job of the central office. The extra funding is about 1 million off, and then out of the additional local funds that are about 9.5, there's an internal revenue from the RSU, about 1.5 million to that is taken off. So from 11 million that it could have been, we go down to 8. But the truth of the matter is that in 2013, it used to be 1 million, and now they're 8. So that's where we see the increase over time.
Thank you.
So anyways,
Thank you, Sarah.
no problem, sorry I had to go.
That's okay, that's okay. So I'd like to move on to old business, and I'll make a motion that we review the select board meeting minutes of March 21.
I'll second your motion.
Second, okay. Does anybody have any comments on the minutes? None?
I have one
Oh, okay,
question,
go ahead.
if you don't mind,
Sure.
maybe a point of clarification. I can't remember, when I was reviewing these minutes before, there was a comment about the property that Belgrade has, and the topic had to do with the distance that the fire department would be from something. I was wondering if you could clarify, 5
Right.
miles from what?
Right, I noticed that too. I'm glad you brought that up. That was when we were talking about the siting of the new fire station.
Yes. Can't remember what page it was on, but.
The houses, your house has to be within 5 miles of the fire station. If a house is more than 5 miles from the fire station, it changes the rate that is charged for your insurance. And Belgrade's currently what's called a town class 9. It would become a town class 10, which is a significant dollar amount, and would be for every house that's outside that 5 mile perimeter.
Thank you, Carol. So it's
Oh, yes,
basically-
okay. So it's on page 2 of 6. Fire department land search letter. The parcel selected should be within 5 miles for insurance purposes.
Right.
So within 5 miles of what?
The parcel should be within 5 miles of
The prospective fire station.
residents' homes. Homes need to be within 5 miles of the fire station. So the site should not be more than 5 miles from here.
From any house.
Well, as many as possible.
As many as
this-
Yeah, you might have 1 or 2, but
So basically what it is we're looking for a parcel of land somewhat in this triangle area, close to where the depot station is now, so we can stay in that same 5 mile radius.
So within 5 miles of the current station?
Correct.
Is that by road, 5 miles, or by like the crow flies?
I believe it's how the crow.
I think it's the crow.
The goal
that's
is
the
goal is
challenge.
just try to keep as many houses in those, with those
Right.
3
Well,
stations that we have.
If you don't, you then jeopardize your insurance rate, which is,
Yeah, because you can be
Huge.
You can be 3 miles from the crow flies, but it takes 15 miles to get there.
I understand that.
All right, that's good.
Okay. I have a motion to,
I move we approve the minutes as amended,
well, how did we amend them? Within 5 miles.
within 5 miles.
I would be messing with that.
I mean, I think it's gonna be too hard to do what to say.
Okay, then I withdraw my motion. I
Just so
move we approve the
Just so we
minutes.
understand what it means.
Yeah, I understand what we've talked about, so thank you for clarifying. I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Wait, we already have. Carol
I
has
have
a
it.
Oh, I
motion.
thought you meant- I'm sorry, second is that. I apologize.
Okay, all in favor? Dan,
Yes,
Carol,
Yes,
Peter,
Yes,
Melanie? Yes. Herbert, yes, yes. Now, a point of order, since we have a number of people who are waiting for appointments under the first item in new business, can we move that up now, or do we need to complete the old business first?
We should complete the old business and then if you want to move somebody up to have them first thing on their new business.
Well, they are first thing in the new business, the consideration of appointments.
I mean. I don't think that those next two items are gonna take too long.
Okay.
It's just-
Everybody okay to continue? Okay, I move that we open discussion and consideration of the multi-year contract article for June.
Second,
So, Lorna, are you the one who's gonna walk us through this?
So you discussed it at your last meeting. And I've given you the information provided by MMA Legal, which you have discussed, and I've provided you with the sample warrant articles that they came up with. I've also provided you the sample warrant article that would be a perpetuity article. So on the second page at the top would be the perpetuity article. Underneath that are the way the articles would be written if you followed what MMA suggests.
Questions?
Did
No.
we already have a perpetuity article that handles this?
No,
Okay, because there was an article at one point, I remember when Greg was the town manager, so it gave us the authority to enter into multi-year contracts. As part of that, it was 1-to-1.
Mary Lawn.
Yes, yeah, it wasn't a perpetuity article. It was just a warrant article on the regular annual warrant.
Okay, so when we didn't carry that forward, so it wouldn't become a perpetuity. Got it. Thank you.
Any other questions?
No, I mean, I'm in favor of perpetuity article. I don't want to have to deal with vote on these all the time.
Well,
I'd rather have somebody come back and at some point say, no, let's re-vote on it when they want, decide they want them.
Right, and I'm in favor of perpetuity articles simply because the recommended example warrant articles from MMA request that you put it out for an RFP, and that whatever your RFP is the top line, and then we would be unable to exceed that, and we've already seen with fuel escalators, we've seen with our cleaning contract, that an estimate is an estimate, and that is not the top dollar that we're gonna pay. And that would hold us to a lower cost than what could be beneficial for the town in order to enter into multi-year contracts with contractors.
So are we deciding between the perpetuity articles and articles 2 through 7?
that's what it sounds like to me.
Yes,
Yeah,
yeah.
so it's a question, are we going to take the advice from MMA or are we going to go ahead and put a perpetuity article in? I think that's the question we're looking at.
Someone like to make a motion?
I make a motion that we adopt the shall the town vote to authorize the board of select persons or their designee to negotiate and enter into a multi-year, actually, I would say, shall the town vote to authorize the board of select persons or their designee to negotiate and the select board to enter into a multi-year contracts on behalf of the town and to extend existing contracts found to be in the best interest of the town of Belgrade. This authorization will remain in effect until changed by a vote of future town meeting.
Second,
Any further discussion? All in favor? Dan,
yes,
Carol,
Yes,
Melanie,
Yes.
Peter,
Yes.
Barbara, yes, 5 in favor. All right. Well, I move to open the discussion and consideration of the American Rescue Plan and ARPA funds.
Just before you do that, so this will need to be, we'll need to have the public hearing on that in May, is that
Yes, I
what we're
think you
doing?
could probably do it at your May 2.
May 2 meeting, okay, just so we have that on,
Mary must have the
Agenda.
date, so we should get a look at the date.
okay.
Okay, the town is in receipt of $332,584 in ARPA funds. Several public meetings were held for input, as well as a suggestion form that residents could use. The board discussed some possible uses at its January 3rd, 2023 meeting. The board approved $48,000 for the village dam repair project at its March 21, 2023 meeting. And there's also some information from Lorna concerning digitizing our maps since the last review in early January. So do we want to make any further decisions tonight? We've approved village dam repair.
Looking at the video meeting equipment for the Center for All Seasons, it looked to me that we only had one bid there.
Yes.
And I guess my concern is that we can't Zoom. That we get a couple more bids that would allow for us to be able to Zoom from that facility before we make a decision on it. Because we're going to have more and more meetings where other people will want, people can see it even if they can't vote on it, but informational meetings. And I keep coming back to the one when we had the meeting with 60 odd people there on solar power. What, a year ago, 2 years ago? And there were people who wanted to go, who couldn't be there. We didn't vote, but we couldn't give the information. So I think as we look forward, we should see how that capability, what's the cost to make it so that we could make the Center for All Season Zoomable, for lack of a better term. And then look at, a couple of other bids before we make a decision on that piece.
Carol, am I hearing you that we've only heard from one?
Apparently, we just have one bid, which,
Did we put it out to bid or did we simply request that our current IT provider provide us with a quote?
This was I believe they were the company that gave us the previous information, which you wanted something different, so I went back to them and asked them for that additional equipment. So that's what they sent me.
So we haven't put it up to bid.
no, so I don't think we're ready to make that decision.
Okay.
That's my personal opinion, I think we're ready.
I would agree. Do we put things out to RFP for this?
Yes.
Yes.
So that would be nice. Portland Headlight, I would expect to respond to an RFP. Do a lot of good work.
And there's one that we've used at church, I want to say it's Sound Tech or something. That has done a lot of work for us and sound systems and so on. So I think there are other vendors out there. It's a question of, do we have the parameters set to put into the bid? And maybe that we need to work on that piece of it. But,
Another thing I'd like to see on this list that's on here, we talked just recently about doing something with that property down by the transfer station. I'd like to find out if ARPA funds can be used for those walking trails and some of that other stuff that needs to be done down in that area. So we've been putting that off for years and years and years.
Walking trails in the dog park.
Dog park, yeah,
Whatever we can do now. It's just,
Okay.
yeah. Well, there are things that we wouldn't spend the money on. We probably never raise and appropriate the amount of money it would
right,
take.
so I'm hoping.
So ARPA makes
ARPA
fun
can
to
be
use it.
used to something like
Yeah.
that, it would be great too.
Looking at Seven Lakes Alliance, I think that's something where I feel we should be able to make a decision on. If they're going to be fixing our waterfront, it's the town's waterfront that needs to be fixed. One, it needs to be scheduled, and two, if we're not gonna raise and appropriate the money, you can use ARPA funds, so we keep the tax base down. So I would think we're ready to make a decision on that.
I don't have a problem looking at that, but I want to see a plan first. I want to see what's gonna be done in the plan for doing it.
So you weren't at the meeting.
Yeah, it was
They did
previously
come-
presented in a public hearing. I do not have that plan with me, but I'd be happy to provide
Yeah,
it.
Charlie designed it.
Charlie Bader was the one who designed the plan, and it addressed each of, I think, 4 properties for the town, the 3 lakeside parks plus the swimming beach, plus the Center for All Seasons, the swim area there at the town, that, and so. There was also,
Park in there maybe?
yeah, Hayden Park was in there as well, with the possibility of removing some of that invasive plant, the terrestrial invasive plant there. I can't recall what the name
Yeah,
of it.
I'd like to see a copy of that, because I mean, how long ago was that done?
Whenever the public hearings were, I believe that was in July of 2022.
Yeah,
I was
so it's
gonna
been.
say, and you did send a PDF of that after the fact.
I did,
Yes,
yeah,
you did.
so-
Was that the presentation you sent for the last meeting where you came in January?
No, this was in
Something
July. It
July,
was,
August.
yeah, it was shortly after I joined Seven Lakes. Charlie Bader and I came to one of your public hearings.
Right,
One of the series of public hearings.
one of the series of public hearings, you were here then, yeah, yeah, and you presented.
And you might want to look at that and make sure the numbers are all still good. Or,
Yeah, Charlie and I actually talked about it today, and he's still comfortable with the numbers. I mean, what we had requested was $26,000 would cover the cost. We suggested maybe 30 just to provide some sort of a contingency in that. And I think one of the benefits of that, Dan, is the Youth Conservation Corps would be doing most of that work. And so the work would be accomplished on town property, but at a reduced labor rate for the town, as opposed to using a private contractor. So, as you may know, the Youth Conservation Corps only charges a slim minority of what the actual labor costs are for any of the projects that we do.
and I think it's worthwhile. I want to look at the thing again, because I don't think I was around for this.
If memory serves me correctly, I
you
believe
were-
Carol and Barbara and Melanie were at that hearing.
We were at that meeting.
So I don't think
At
that
that
actually
particular
is
hearing.
available.
And what's the timeline, if we delay?
So I talked with Stuart Cole, our erosion control project coordinator, about that today. And, you know, we'd like to get that on the books this spring so that we can address it as soon as we have our YCC members show up, which happens, you know, as soon as college classes.
Okay, and Peter wasn't on the board at that time, so he might not be as familiar with it either. So if we put it on the agenda for a vote in 2 weeks, is that enough time?
Certainly,
Okay,
And you can get the stuff out to us ahead of time,
certainly, and you'll have it tomorrow.
okay?
And Peter, I'll be happy to meet with you and answer any questions that you have.
Thank you.
Okay.
You too, Dan.
and so as with the other YCC projects, we'll be primarily paying for materials.
That's correct. So the way that YCT projects work is we procure the materials that you need. I mean, we would recommend, hey, this is what we would suggest doing with this property. We secure the materials at cost. You pay that cost plus a fraction of what the labor costs are for the YCC.
And you take care of all the permitting and all of that.
That's correct.
So,
Yeah, I mean, it seems like the town should.
and we get it done by people who know what they're doing and they can plant plants that live as opposed to maybe planting plants that die, but other people like.
Right. Okay, so we'll take that up,
No. This is preventing erosion from the shore into the.
invasive species.
Oh, so that's a terrestrial. It's some sort of Japanese cane. It looks like bamboo down there at the park. Yeah.
That's,
Kind of like stuff like that.
it is everywhere. It's
It's very hard to get rid of.
very
It's
invasive.
almost impossible to get rid of.
Yes,
Yeah.
seriously, yeah.
Okay, thank you. So the other thing that's new on the list is the comprehensive plan update digitizing tax maps. So we probably, everybody have a chance to.
I'm having a hard time reconciling $60,000 because when I read through what Katie Cog said, it does not say. Well, it's gonna be an additional $30,000 to digitize them because they're already digitized. And it says it looks like it will cost a couple of thousand more, so I'm not sure where $30,000 cost payment. And I do see what they, for their assistance to update our comprehensive plan, we're looking at $28,000 payable over 2 years' time.
Right.
So I see that as 30,000, but I don't see 60,000 there. So
I
don't
don't
where
know if we
it
can
came
spend
from.
that money to update comp plan, because that's something we're required to do anyway.
Right. And it
So
looks like
I
they
can
are
understand if
closed
you're
out
adding
restaurant
options to it that you
anticipating.
normally wouldn't do. Then you might be able to pay for some of those options, but I don't know if you can pay for the whole thing.
Well, I think, Melanie, I think you bring up a good point that it looks like by reading through it, it's more like 30, not 60,
Right.
right? So
There's the other 30.
Where did the 60 come from?
Yeah, the KV cog is 28 for the comp plan. They can do minor changes for the digital maps. I think they did those back at least 10 years ago. So there are updates that need to be made, and he says that would be several thousand.
He said a small fee, a few thousand perhaps.
And if you look at the CAI information, they're around the 30,000, and they are the ones who provided the links to the different communities that have their GIS mapping, the digital online, and it's super what they're able to include and what it looks like and what the experience is for the end user.
Am I missing something? I don't see CAI. Where would I find that in here?
It should have been on there. It's in the town manager. If you look back a little bit, you've got,
Oh, and your
KV
county's in the town
yeah,
manager's report.
you've got KV cog here, but if you look back in the town manager information. I thought I put both of them in.
So the 28,000 is to update the comprehensive plan. And
Yeah.
Dan, your question is, can we spend ARPA money on that?
Yeah, 'cause I don't, that's something that was required the town anyways, to update. So I don't know if we can spend that on that.
I
Did
thought that
you ask
MMA,
Phil
I
if
thought
we
that
could?
MMA said we could,
It looks like MMA says that you can,
yeah.
Okay,
if you include the digitizing of the maps as part of the.
Oh, so you make it all as one,
A package.
put it together as a
Yes.
package.
Well, and it does look like Katie Cog says if it's for the comp plan, their digital mapping is already included.
Right.
If it's for a different type of work, then they would be extended work required. So that wouldn't be something additional.
Anthony?
So in preparation for the next item on your agenda, I met with the former chair of the comprehensive plan review committee. Oh, there he is, right there. And, I think we've all been under the impression that the comp plan needs to be updated in 2024. And what George told me was that there was a recent article in Town and City Magazine that indicated, from the MMA, that indicated that that is to occur in 12 years. So if that is in fact the case, then you wouldn't be updating the plan until 2026. And so, you still have some time in order to do that. And so, and you're simply updating a plan as opposed to writing a plan should be a lighter lift than what occurred in 2014. Should cost less money than writing a plan from scratch, I would think. And so, those are just some factors that you may want to take into consideration,
Right.
along with the fact that you have to expend those dollars by the end of 2026. Otherwise, you lose them back to the Department of Treasury. As for whether or not is an allowable expense, I would say it is, because remember, the rules that have been updated by the Department of Treasury allow for any governmental use whatsoever. So walking trails, fine. Comp plan, fine. So I think, in my opinion, you can check with the MMA, but I think that would be an allowable.
We already did.
expense.
We're gonna
We
check with the MMA.
We checked with KV cog on the timeline, so it's a 10-year update for the plan, but they give you a 2-year grace period. So KV cog let us know that our plan expires March of 26.
Yeah, so you guys.
Lauren and I were getting into a bit of the panic thinking, oh my gosh, this has to be done
In the
by next year.
6 months.
So, So, yeah, we do have until 26, so we can do a thorough job. Yes, George.
Just keep in mind, it took us 2 years.
I know,
Yeah.
I know, I know.
That it did. It was. a
And
big
even
lift.
though a lot has been checked off on the last plan, we know that there are gonna be things added on to it. So it's not just, okay, we've done that, you know, it's gonna be a simple fix for the new plan.
So are we comfortable with the fact that with KV Cog and MMM saying we can do it, that we could approve the money? I mean, I guess I'm comfortable with that. I don't know about anyone else.
We'll approve 60,000 of that for it until we've got a little bit more of what exactly that would entail. If we're really looking at 31,000, I would rather say 31,000 than bump it to 60,000.
Right. Okay, we can look into this a little bit more.
Yeah, we'll need an actual breakdown of the money.
Okay,
Okay. And then the other one that's still on the list that actually has a dollar figure is the broadband expansion.
right.
So, and that's one that I feel that maybe you're gonna want to hold off on, because we have the committee that's working on that statewide. I believe they requested to come to the towns. So, and they would be coming in and doing a presentation about the broadband expansion, the 3 tiers that they're looking at.
Okay.
And I think that we do need to invite them and make sure that they are part of one of our meetings. So that we don't put the cart before the horse, if the horse is already bringing the cart. So
Not only that, to say we're gonna spend money for
one small.
one small
road.
area in the town, I think we're gonna get a lot of pushback.
Yeah.
It has a need.
So we need to look at other needs
Yes.
as well.
Yes.
And we also, we just this here, we need to see how much this is costing. Because we've done a public Wi-Fi here, but we didn't approve that through the select board, we discussed it. So what's the cost of that? Because if we do that in a hotspot here, then we need to be looking at other places and we need to see where that money comes from. If it's not budgeted for, it's not budgeted for.
So, is there, so those are the only ones we have expense for. So at this point, it doesn't look like we're ready to make any decision tonight.
I think the Seven Lakes Alliance one, we can probably determine next time
Yeah,
we get that money.
and I think we really.
KV Cog will maybe able to determine next time, as long as we get the numbers.
Get the numbers
shown,
there,
the
yep.
breakdown of what the actual cost is.
Yeah, I just think we need more work on that, on the video for CFA. I don't know if we have that for next meeting, but I mean, to get ready so we can maybe RFP it.
In terms of gathering requirements so that we could eventually get it into an RFP, do we kind of have a good handle on that, or do we not?
Do you want to work with me on that?
I'll be
Peter?
happy to.
Would you?
Yeah.
Sure.
And we would need to approve the RFP.
Right,
Work
we
us
need to
out.
approve the RFP,
Absolutely, yeah.
but maybe if we could get that for either next meeting or the first meeting in May, so we could get that moving. Yeah. Okay. I mean, it's not gonna be cheap.
Right,
Well, what I want to make sure is that we don't spend money on a system like we've done previously. We spent a lot of money on the system here for the select board and it was totally ineffective.
Yeah,
So
Agreed.
we wasted money time and again, same thing with that sound system that the Center for All Seasons for town meeting.
right.
We keep putting money into it and it does not yield what we're trying to do. Maybe we need to get with Sue. Because she's- well, seriously, she's a rock star at knowing what you need for technology in a room that size, where you've got the expansive ceiling. So maybe Sue should be part of that, helping us to figure out what we need.
Well, and maybe at that same time, we look to see what do we need to do to get this sound system better for where we're having so many people on Zoom, where people can't hear well. I don't know the answer because I'm not a techno geek, but
Have you had a tech person come in to check your areas? I mean, I know, I'm going back to the high school. Our tech team at the high school is absolutely amazing. And they have upgraded us and they can reach out to any place. So I guess you would try to find a really good technical company that could come in look at your areas that you need and figure out, what you need to put into it. Because it is gonna be expensive, so you need somebody that's quite knowledgeable, that could tell you.
Okay, yes.
And just to piggyback on that, one thing you have to consider is the system gonna need to be manned? So if you've got a lot of microphones, you're gonna have a soundboard, you have to have someone who knows how to operate a soundboard. If you've got robotic cameras, in order to Zoom a meeting, you're gonna have someone who operates those. And so that requires not only manpower, but a specialized expertise that, you know, you may not have within your organization. So
We just need more information before we can make this.
So having done this before in the city council chambers, let me just say, it's just more involved than people imagine it to be, because, for instance, with a microphone system, you can't have in a space like the Center for All Seasons, you can't have a fixed system. That means every time you want to use it, you got to have people who know how to set everything up, break it down, plug it into a soundboard, operate the soundboard, operate the cameras if you have remote control cameras. And so, you know, it's, you know, because we're all walking around with a camera and a video camera in our pockets, we all think it's pretty easy, and it's more involved than people might imagine it to be.
Always.
Okay, good points.
May I say something? I did try to raise my hand. So as part of our franchise agreement, when we renewed our franchise agreement with Spectrum, there was an option to pick up a television station, as other municipalities have done. There may be something there. I did have someone come in that said he would be willing to talk to the Board of Select Persons, but we would have to go back to Spectrum or Charter Communications and talk to them about it, because initially when we built that facility, we were going to have our television station with a drop-down camera, and the room off to the left-hand side of Melanie would have housed everything that we needed. And it would be a television channel that we would own. But I do have a card of someone who is willing to come in. He sets these up. He does it in Fairfield. He set theirs up there, and I don't know if there's any interest there, but like I said, we'd have to go back to Charter Communications and see if they would consider a renegotiation, because it is part of the contractual agreement. We're in a 10-year contract, and unfortunately, we didn't negotiate that 2 or 3 years ago.
So Mary, we hadn't done that because the television programming piece of that, I mean, we probably, those of us that are old, remember when there used to be a public station. So there was the Santa thing at the holidays, there was various town council meetings were available on that one public station. So years ago, the contract with Time Warner was supposed to provide a slot essentially for the town of Belgrade at no cost to the town.
Correct.
And then when they were bought out by Spectrum, we did not end up going that route because it was no longer going to be free, and the tag for it was fairly hefty.
Right. And so this gentleman that I spoke with, Melanie, not to interrupt, but he said that there is no cost and that he can talk to the board and tell you how you can get that. And there is no cost of the equipment. You know, I have his card. It's worth looking into. It provides a television channel with the equipment. You know, it wouldn't be for the center. It would be for that space right there, because, you know, we all know that the Zoom thing is not perfect. I have, you know, everybody's cutting in and out on the voices here sometimes, but, you know, it's just something to consider, and I'll give the information to Lorna.
Okay, that would be great. Thank you.
So what I just said about the complexity of the sound system with a PEG channel, which is what y'all are talking about that, and I operated one in Texas, take what I just said and then crank it up to 11. That's the complexity that's going to be involved. And while there is no cost for actually having the channel, you still got to have the equipment in order to broadcast that. So that's the capital cost, and again, the expertise. So yeah, it's free. Well, it's free to the town, but in order for the cable company to provide that, they put an extra fee on every cable subscriber's bill, which can create a little bit of a fuss in the community. So let the buyer beware.
Okay,
Let's move on, but
okay, thank you. So moving on to new business. I make a motion that we open item A, consideration of appointments.
I'll second that.
So first we have for Dams Committee, Craig Alexander reappointment.
let's do all of the appointments at once.
I'll do all the appointments or just
All of the
reappointments?
appointments.
All the reappointments, okay. Reappointments are Dams Committee, Craig Alexander, Planning Board, Craig Alexander, Comprehensive Plan Review, Kimberly Dallas, Cemetery Committee, Bruce Galush, Budget Committee, Bruce Galush, Transfer Station and Recycling, Christina Wilson, Board of Assessment Review, Richard Bourne, Board of Appeals, Valerie Hutzbath, Board of Appeals, Jordan Zaretic. Is that the correct way of saying the name? I hope so. Senior Resource Committee, Karen McFadden.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Dan?
Yes,
Carol?
Yes,
Melanie?
Yes.
Yes.
Barbara? Yes, 5 yeses for reappointments.
yes, and thank you.
Thank you
Thank
very
you
much.
all. All right, so moving on to new appointments. We have
Anyway,
Penny Morel. Who,
Lorna,
Raised hand.
question.
oh, sorry,
We have one spot open on the budget committee and you have 2 committee applications.
I got one here, so
Just so you are aware.
Hold on,
Yeah,
4-3.
yeah, that one is full, but you have 2 others.
Have these, don't we have a procedure where the budget committee is consulted on whose names brought forward?
Yes.
Don't we have that process?
Yes, we
Yeah.
do.
And we do it on budget, do we, I don't know if we do it on anything else.
For the budget committee.
So maybe we need to refer that back to the budget committee for
Yeah.
recommendation.
Did the budget committee already move forward with a recommendation
Well,
or,
I only had one candidate, I didn't have 3.
and who was that?
Ben Roth. Who's the other candidate?
Nicholas Picaro.
Carl.
That's right here.
Oh, that's you. What we saying?
Penny can have it, no problem. I was just trying to help out, these are the people on. But if Penny wants to budget, that's fine.
You know, you can come to the meeting.
Yeah, I'm meeting.
Is there a budget committee alternate?
What is it? So we have the budget committee, we used to have myself, Jack, Bruce, Scott, and Katie. So with 5 of us. So Jack is out. Katie's out. So we have to open it, isn't it?
But didn't we appoint Gary Muller?
6.
Oh, Gary Muller got in there, I'm sorry. That's right.
And
It says
John,
there are 6, is that correct, Mary?
Right, there are 6, and John Hall.
John Hall.
So there's Sarah, Bruce, Scott, John, and Gary
Correct.
right now.
no, it's fine.
Yes.
And there's 6 members.
6 members, okay.
6.
Right.
So we have openings on other committees.
Well, he's on.
You go to planning board.
Okay, all right.
We'll be in for some other ones, you just have.
Then you,
Someplace else.
3-ish, one, my job.
Well, welcome then.
All right, so let's go back to Penny Morel. The first one for Penny is the Public Works Ad Hoc. And can I have a motion to consider Penny?
Oh,
Where
Can
we
we
have
do,
4
do-
members.
Hmm?
How many?
We have room.
Okay, so how many members do we have now? We have
If you appoint the 2 on the list here, I believe there's still 1 slot open.
Okay, so we have 12.
Yes,
And then the
there are 3
14.
open.
And then 1.
15.
Hey, there's another opening. All right, so I make a motion that we approve Penny Morel's application for the Ad hoc Public Works Committee.
I second that.
Okay.
Is Penny on?
Penny wants
Is
to-
Penny on?
She is on, I saw her.
Name's there,
Yeah,
Hello, Penny.
turn camera on.
you're muted.
Just mute it, just mute.
There
There you go.
There. Hello, Penny.
Hi. Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes, and we can see you too.
There we go.
Okay, so you're interested in the Ad hoc Public Works Committee. Which is great. We appreciate that.
She's frozen.
Oh, no, she's
Okay.
still there.
All
Are
right.
you asking me?
Yeah,
Are you
Yes.
asking me? Oh, what was
Yes.
the question? I'm sorry.
No, just that we are considering your application for the Ad hoc Public Works Committee.
Yes.
And why do you want to be on it?
Why do I want to be on it? Because I want to make sure that that's the best route to go. Taxpayer wise, I don't think that we need everybody on the committee to be for it or against it, but we need to have all views shared and investigated to make sure that this is the right thing to do or not.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Very good.
All right.
are you ready to go?
All in favor of Penny Morel?
Yes.
Yes,
Peter?
Yes.
Nellie? Yes. Carol?
yes.
Dan? Yes. Barbara, yes. Okay, 5 for Penny. Thank you, Penny. And now
Thank
we'll
you.
consider, don't go away. We're now going to consider you for Budget Committee.
Okay.
You're going to be busy on behalf of the town of Belgrade.
All right, so I make a motion that we approve Penny Morel's application to the Budget Committee.
Second.
Okay, any further questions for Penny? All right. All in favor, Peter?
Yes.
Nellie?
Yes.
Carol?
Yeah,
Dan?
Yes.
Barbara? Yes. Okay, thank you, Penny.
Thank you so much. Have a good
Thanks,
night.
Just remember to stop in and get sworn
What'd you say, Dan? Are you talking to me?
in. Don't forget to, remember to come down and get sworn in on the budget committee.
Come to the town office and get sworn in.
Oh, okay. Tomorrow is okay?
Sure.
yeah.
All righty. Appreciate
Okay,
it.
thank you.
Thanks, Penny.
Okay.
You're
next
welcome.
up- Thank you. Next
You're
up, Anthony
welcome.
Wilson for comprehensive plan review.
It's kind of rough, huh?
Finally, I get to talk.
Anthony, who?
You haven't been talking?
So,
I'll make a motion to approve Anthony.
I'll second it.
all right. And would you like to tell us about your interest in comprehensive plan?
Yes, I think it's a committee that flies under the radar, but having attended a lot of comp plan review committee meetings, right, George? I understand the importance of having a group that holds the town's administration and its elected officials feet to the fire when it comes to following up on the plan that the voters approved.
Okay, you can do that for us.
I will.
All right, all in favor, Dan,
Yes.
Carol,
Yes.
Melanie? Yes. Peter?
Yes.
Barbara? Yes, okay. 5 for Dan,
Welcome
5
aboard.
for Anthony, thank you. And don't forget to get sworn in.
Here with Bill.
All right, and now Susan Perino for the Senior Resource Committee.
I make a motion that we approve Susan Perino for the Senior Resources Committee.
I'll
Second.
second.
Susan,
We can
thank you.
go second.
Yes, this committee is, what we're all trying to do is to get the seniors out and involved and participating in different crafts that we have, movie night, just to make them feel that there's something for them to participate in. We have lots of events that they can come to, they can help out with, and it's, our problem is getting the information out to the seniors because some of them don't have laptops, but it's a wonderful committee, and we are trying very hard to get the seniors in the town involved in doing participating in movie night. We have wonderful crafts for them to do.
I want to learn tatting. I've never learned to.
Are you teaching that?
Yeah.
I'm not teaching it. Mary, you still there?
That's incredible.
Yeah.
I'm not quite old enough, so hang on a couple more minutes.
I think she's only gonna do it once, either once or twice. But, some of the events, you know, the materials are paid for. We do painting on campuses. But it's just to get the seniors involved and, you know, make them more aware of what the town of Belgrade has to offer to them.
Yeah.
So that's why I chose to be on that committee.
Great, thank you very much. Did we vote?
Not yet.
Oh, okay. All right, all in favor of Susan Freno for the Senior Resources Committee? Dan?
Yes.
Cheryl?
Yes.
All right,
Yes.
Peter?
Yes.
Robert, yes, okay, welcome, thank you. Don't forget to get sworn in
And where does that take place?
with Mary in the town office.
Oh, okay, very good. Anytime?
Well, while the town office is open.
Right. Yeah.
Thank you.
And next up is Nathaniel Bomer for Public Works Ad Hoc Committee.
Hi, good evening.
Hi. So could you tell us, oh, we need to open it up first.
Yeah, so I make a motion that
Okay.
we approve his application.
And seconded.
All right, okay.
Now we
You're-
can quiz him.
Now we can, now you can go ahead and tell us your interest in being on the committee.
Yeah, it sounded like a cool project to be a part of. So I've have, you know, a background in engineering. I actually worked for Fisher Engineering, designing and building and testing snow plows. My current role, I do a lot of budgeting and forecasting and estimating on, you know, kind of large scale budgets. And, you know, something I'd kind of dipping my foot into the, you know, getting involved in the town, in the community, as I, you know, my wife and I moved here with our daughter just about 2 years ago.
Super, this is a great way to get to know people in town.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, great. All in favor of Nathaniel on Public Works Ad Hoc? Peter?
Yes.
Melanie?
Yes.
Carol?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Barbara? Yes, okay. Welcome aboard and don't forget to get sworn in at some point.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, Susan.
Bye-bye.
And next up, Paul Cleaves for Water District Trustee. Oh, that's Paul. So I make a motion that, what's the motion? That we accept the nomination of Paul Cleaves for Water District Trustee.
I'll second
We'll third it.
So Paul, you're new to town too.
Yeah, just moved here in August. So this is another chance to get to meet everybody. And I've started getting involved with a water system back when I was in college. It was my college job, and I stayed with it for a few years after that and been in and out of it for quite a while. So it's something I've got an interest in and hopefully some helpful knowledge.
Any experience with the grant writing?
No experience with grant writing.
That's one thing we're gonna have to look for is trustees have to write grants and try to fund the water system.
Free money, huh?
Okay, all in favor of Paul Cleaves for Water District Trustee.
So what we have to determine those that the board appoints, and we appoint for 3-year terms, but then there's staggered terms. So if we appoint Paul, then my recommendation would be that we appoint Paul as the first water district trustee for a 3-year term.
Or would you prefer a 3-year term? Right now, we start off, you have to do a 1, a 2, and a 3-year term.
3-year would be fine. Okay.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Especially with your expertise.
And would that appointment coincide with the opening of the public water system? So he wouldn't actually have a lot to do between now and then? Or do we simply appoint a trustee, and if the water system is not up and running for another 1.5 years, a 1.5 years of his term is expired?
I think we have to have the trustees before we actually set up
Before we set up the
It
water
would go to
system.
PUC and everything else, so.
Right.
Was that one of the things they told us we needed to do is get it appointed?
Bruce,
Plus, I think trustees would look over the
The plans.
plan for the water system to bring to the board.
Yeah.
To, they go over it before it comes to the board. That's, I would figure
Yeah,
that.
I'm just trying to figure out the timeline, because at this point, DOT is just going out for bids. So,
But they're hoping to build this year, right?
Yeah, you'd want, the town would want a say in reviewing those plans.
yeah,
oh
You
yes,
probably
we've been trying.
yeah.
Well, see, the DOT doesn't get the final decision, the state drinking water program does. So that's your stopgap, and they have the authority to stop them. So that's who we have to use as a hammer.
So,
Bruce,
so something we found out today, Lauren and I did, is if 10 people don't sign on to that water system, it will not be considered a public water source. You gotta have 10 people sign on.
And household groups?
Yep, 10 households or a business like Christie, which Christie's water is fine, so they're not yours. So that may run into an issue for us as a town, if, so how it was kind of explained to us today is, Lauren can correct me if I'm wrong, is the town would end up owning that water system and being 100% responsible for the safe drinking and so on and so forth.
Yes. That's what.
So would that
our
be if
inspector
less
told
than
us to
10
do.
people?
That'd be less than 10 people, yep.
So at this point, there's only 13
10
affected
connections,
households.
right?
Right.
Right.
Right now, the survey is only 5 that are connected.
That's,
That was a survey that we got from a report from DOT at a couple select board meetings ago.
I don't believe that there was 5. They said there was more than a majority and that there were 13 affected, and the email that was sent out in February said 10 of the 13 had indicated that they would participate.
Okay, I thought it was 5, and one of them means, I guess I didn't get this.
Because they
Plus
wouldn't
the
go,
town's gonna be participating. Well,
That's what Lauren and I were saying, well, the town will count for 2 of the properties, but that doesn't, something like Christie's would automatically put us in for it.
well, because remember the state's thing, Bruce, was that they wouldn't move forward without a supermajority, and then they wouldn't quite clarify what a supermajority was.
Right.
So then when it came back, it was either 10 or 11 out of the 13 had indicated that they would join. That's a clear supermajority, so then they would move forward.
Right, I wanted to make sure you guys as a board realize this, if you don't get 10 to sign up, it will not be considered a public works.
I wonder if that's what they withheld, that we needed the 10.
Well, and I think that that's a
They
big
never gave it.
clarification that we need from DOT, because if that's the case, then we need to go back to DOT and have that clarified.
They should not be spending money that on doing it. In any event, we need to
I mean, this is.
have
like
a,
state
a
too,
board
so
set up to
That's
be
fine.
working on it.
different state,
Yeah, I know.
different state agencies,
They don't talk.
they don't talk to each other.
so we have a motion on the floor to
Yeah,
approve
Accept.
Paul as a water district trustee. Can we amend that to a 3-year term? Effective
Who made the motion?
immediately? Who made- Melanie
I
made
made
the
the
motion.
motion, but I'm just trying to see when we should actually appoint him as his first day.
So
Because we, 3 years, or.
what I read in the paperwork is that the trustees have to be in place prior to the start of DOT's work.
Right, start of construction, I
I mean,
understand, I
I'd
understand.
appoint it now and then. You know,
And we'll get
Do it.
two other,
Make it-
we'll get
in
two.
3 years, he may want to still be a trustee, so.
I mean, there's probably gonna be things that's gonna need to be worked out by the trustees and the select board between now and construction.
So we need
Yeah.
to start getting some more.
Yeah, so we'll get two more companions for you.
Well, would it make sense to appoint him as a 5-1 and maybe by the next meeting we get the other 2, so everyone's 3-year term start, or 1-year or 2-year term starts and ends? You know, we have a date when that,
We'll just start everything from this year, you know, and it doesn't have to be whatever date we vote on it, we'll just say.
Town meeting.
Date is about something
Yeah,
like
town
that,
meeting. So his term would
just
be,
like a select board term.
right, so, yeah, so his term would be until 26.
Until town meeting 26th?
Yep.
Is that what we're saying?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
It makes sense.
All right, that's my motion.
And I'll second that motion.
All right, all in favor, Peter,
Yes.
Melanie,
Yes.
Carol,
Yes,
Dan,
Yes.
Barbara, yes. All right, welcome aboard, Paul, and we are so grateful for your expertise.
And keep your brain clear because we're gonna pick it. Just so you know.
Thank you, Paul.
We're flying by the seat of our pants.
Once we appoint full board of trustees, I think the select board loses basically any authority over that water system, other than our initial
right.
money that we gotta throw in. I think trustees run it all.
I think you're right.
Yeah. We can trust them.
Yeah, trust the trustees.
Okay, so I move that we consider the appointment of Nicholas Zaccaro to the planning board.
Second.
Motion. And a second.
So, Nicholas. Tell us about
Yeah,
yourself.
so, I have a family, I'm raising a family here, so I have a vested interest in what goes on. I went to school for project management. I currently work for Turner as a general foreman, and, above all, I want to serve my town, so.
Good answer.
Super. Super. All right, all in favor of Nicholas Zaccaro
For the planning board?
for planning board?
For planning board.
Peter, yes,
Yes.
Melanie?
Yes.
Yes,
Carol?
Yes.
Dan? Barbara? Yes, okay, welcome aboard, and don't forget to get signed in,
Thank
or
you.
sworn in,
Yeah.
sworn in. Okay, and last we have Stephanie Barrett for Budget Committee.
No,
no, that was
Oh, that was withdrawn. Oh, okay, so we're done.
a Nicholas poll, so he pulled
Okay.
himself off budget, so.
Okay,
we're all
okay,
set.
great.
While you're right here, Nicholas, is there another committee that you want to be?
I would think now. Cemetery. The cemetery. have no-
Cemetery committee, yeah.
Transfer station those.
Yeah, I'll do cemetery.
Cemetery committee?
we should phone the bill out real quick, or you can do it while we're here.
Well, on this one, he did 1 and 2.
Can we take one of these?
Can we
and just
take one
have
of
him cross
these?
it out?
Yeah, we take out the one you back off.
We'll take out the Budget Committee one.
Change it.
Just check it.
Yeah, just check that one. Change it from those in, yeah. All right, and I'll make a motion that we approve Nicholas' application to be on the cemetery committee.
Yeah, what's that, what he's.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
Okay. Thank you, Nicholas.
Thank you.
All in favor, Dan?
Yes.
Carol?
Yes,
No,
Yes,
Peter?
Yes.
Yes, okay, thank you.
we'll pass that down.
Nicholas, did you go by Nicholas or Nick?
Nicholas.
Nick?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Usually when we
oh,
get-
that's for Laura, sure.
With the middle name by your mom. Yeah.
All right.
Make sure to be sworn in before Thursday.
I'm Stephen, I'm married.
Okay, well, thank you. Boy, this was a nice round of,
Great, and nice to have a lot of new faces and,
yeah,
and,
and some reappointments.
and faces with less gray hair.
Or have it.
That too.
Yeah,
All right. I make a motion that we open the discussion and consideration of retention increases retroactive pay.
I second.
So here this comes from. This
Thank
is
you,
our
Paul.
respective
Thank you, Laura.
request. We don't know
Thank
who
you,
the
Sarah.
request is from.
The request, this request is from Lorna.
Yes.
Why?
Right.
Thank
And
When I shared that the retention increases would take effect April 1. Almost everybody came to me, supervisors came to me and said that the budget was passed by the budget committee, the select board and the townspeople, which included those increases as of January 1.
But they haven't had the reviews yet.
No, but these are the 5 retention increases,
Right,
not the,
Who won't have the
Right.
increase. The up to 3% increase.
So that was we have 2 fire and rescue employees. Transfer station, library, and
Rec.
Rec center,
recreation.
yeah.
Bruce,
So I kept my cool. I was gonna send an email when I got wind of this to you guys. So we went through this last year, and we had to fight to do this. So as a taxpayer, I approved a budget from January 1st to December 31st. In that budget, it included them raises to be paid from January 1st to December 31st. We fought this last year, at least I did. I fought this very hard last year for the same thing. And when a tax, when a budget's done, it's done that way. And most entities, I mean, it's like we can spend up to a third of our budget before town meeting. If if we're gonna keep fighting with this, then when we do a retention raise, then we should be starting on January 1st. And if it doesn't get approved at town meeting, we have the authority to pay a third, then that raise doesn't happen, the rest of this. The voters voted for it. Why are we having a discussion and not paying it? All we doing is just shooting ourselves in the foot when it comes to our employees. We have had enough time to think, retaining our employees now, I'm getting very tired of fighting for the same thing. This doesn't affect me one bit. I'm not getting any of this money. It does not affect me one bit. But I do look out for the rest of the employees in this town, and I don't think it's right that we keep doing this. It just doesn't look good. Other towns don't do it. Why are we doing it? And I guess I'm hoping other people will speak, but that's, basically where I'm at it.
I mean, when I looked at it in the discussion that we've had, it was my belief that we were doing the retention piece, not the merit increases,
Correct.
but the retention piece for those 5 employees as of January 1st. That's what I thought.
I think
That's what was in my head. So,
That's
You know,
how we
I-
voted
I
on the
support-
budget committee too.
so that I
Well, you don't
I
really
certainly
have
can
an-
support
You
this.
don't have an option, sorry, with the budget committee to vote for. We're gonna vote for this to only go into effect after town meeting. So for us to say, because the way our municipal government works, that in March town meeting, that we're gonna make everything retroactive. So essentially, if we agreed to an escalator for the snowplow contract in March, do we then go back and pay the snowplow contractors from January to March an additional bump? Because we agreed to an increase at town meeting? Because I guess the
You
way.
do with the rest of the budget. I mean, you do with every percent of the budget you do, it's from January 1st to December 31st, regardless of what it is. And like I said, you as a select board, us as a budget committee, we all voted for that budget from January 1st to December 31st. And we did this last year, same thing. Anthony was involved in it too. Same identical thing. And I sat here and I do the same thing. And I shouldn't have to do this. This is automatic. The merit raises, yes, that's a different topic. This is the merit raises. It was budgeted. Every entity, every budget that had the merit raises in it, it was budgeted for that. And it was all discussed. And I wish, I don't have time to go back and look at it, but I'm pretty sure that at least 2 of the merit raises, that I'm pretty sure you guys as a board said would start January 1st. But I don't have time to go back and listen to the meetings to hear that, but. And I'm not gonna bring up which 2 it was, but. So me as a taxpayer, I'm telling you, and I've heard it from other taxpayers in town, they can't believe that you guys are doing this when they voted for that budget. They wouldn't have voted for that budget if they didn't approve it.
I can't believe there's that many people talking about it in town. I think there's a small group of people. But I don't know that at Christmas, is, like, geez, I can't believe that those guys agreed to give these people a raise, but then they're like, hey, we're not gonna back it up. We're gonna go from this point forward.
Oh, exactly. I mean, Now, like I said, I've spoken my opinion and that's my opinion. I just, you know,
Well, didn't
Is
we
there a-
have
is there a-
something in the budget? And I'm not thinking what, maybe it was the sexton. There was something in there we did not budget for the year because they weren't going to start. Was it the sexton?
the
piece of it?
sexton
And then
and-
that was
And the
a
cleaning
proportional one that was
position.
gonna start somewhere along the way.
Exactly, that was how it was
So-
budgeted.
So that, for me, that says
Right.
the others, we were not, we
Thank you.
weren't saying this increase is gonna start, and we're gonna budget 9 months. We were
Right.
budgeting 12 months.
Correct.
So
Thank you.
that. So,
Would someone like to make a motion?
Before we do though, I just had a question. So when did that decision take place? Was that going up to, well, if you don't mind, when did that happen?
what about the sexton being a
Yeah, that whole.
part-time? That was in part of the budget.
Budget.
Budgeting process, and then when the select board approved the budget for the town warrant was, we figured that we didn't need to approve a year's worth
Right.
because they weren't gonna be here for a year.
So that was leading up to going to town meeting. So there were
Yes.
discussions that the board had and the budget committee.
Right.
Okay.
In the departments.
Right,
All
oh,
the
the
departments.
departments, yeah, I'm sure.
Departments put together their budget
Sure.
and said, here's salary and here's fuel and here's cost and here's whatever. So the department heads budgeted for a year's salary.
So they had expectations that they would be spending that money for the calendar year.
Correct.
Which coincides with the budget year for the town.
That would be my interpretation. I
Yes.
haven't spoken. to
I
them,
mean,
but
two
that would be
budgets, I
my
know it's
interpretation.
figured that way.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Someone like to make a motion? We can continue discussing. Anthony?
So just for what it's worth, it pains me to say this, but I agree with Bruce. And last year, and you know, my memory is failing, so maybe I'm not correct about this, but last year there was, you recall, $1.50 increase for every employee in order to boost their pay so that we could remain competitive, because we felt like we fallen behind.
Right.
And so after town meeting, that was, and now I don't remember there being any fuss about it.
Yeah, it was.
But, well, you know, and again, I don't remember that, but, you know, the employees did get that $1.50 retroactive.
Retroactive for the first of the year.
January the first. And, you know, if I put my taxpayer cap on, then I'd say the whole scheme of the town's budget, you know, it's not worth the hill of beans from a just strictly financial position. So I think the benefit, the value that you get by rewarding those employees is well worth the cost.
The goodwill.
It does show goodwill because we did discuss it through the budget committee process, the select board process. Everything got approved, department heads felt their budget was approved. It went to town meeting, voters approved it. So there was some contentious discussions after I had a department head meeting that week and let folks know that they wouldn't see raises until April 1. I think I heard from everyone with the exception of one department. I know Dan McKenzie called me right away. He was very upset.
So I make a motion that we approve the retention bonuses for those 5 employees effective. January 1st.
Increases, they're not bonuses.
I'm not sorry, bonuses, I'm sorry,
Increases.
increases effective January 1.
I'll second that.
Any more discussion?
No, they do realize though that they won't be getting any type of raise until at least April next.
Right, because
Yes,
they're not gonna
yes,
be
I
getting,
know that they
there won't
won't
be
have,
a merit.
yes, you are correct, Dana.
It's a
Yeah,
good distinction. Dan.
Yes,
yeah.
All right, all in favor, Dan?
Yeah,
Carol?
Yes.
Peter?
Yes.
Melanie? Yeah. Barbara? Yes, okay.
Is this all
Okay.
going to affect if anybody also had overtime sometime between January and March? Will we also have an additional overtime pay?
I'm not sure how, I do not know how that has been done in the past.
have to go back and find out.
Yeah, Nick usually figures out all of that going back to January.
The overtime is usually pretty minimal, isn't it?
It is for the most part. Yes.
Government's gonna love that.
Yes. Right.
Okay, I make a motion that we, to open discussion and consideration of employee annual review policy revision.
Second,
Okay, annual review policy update. For consideration, updating the current employee annual review policy from anniversary date to the month of April following town meeting for all employees. Suggested changes below. Employees are, so this is section 10, job descriptions and performance evaluations. Employees are provided with a written job description that outlines their primary duties and responsibilities. The document is maintained on file with the employee's personnel record and should be reviewed annually with the supervisor in conjunction with the annual performance evaluation review. Supervisors, parenthesis, select persons, town manager, town clerk, recreation director, fire chief, facilities director, transfer station, and library director, close friend, will prepare and submit written annual performance evaluations on each employee for which, could we change that for whom?
Yes.
For whom they have supervisory responsibility. Annual evaluations will be completed during the month of April unless unusual circumstances dictate. Evaluations will be recorded and will become part of each employee's official personnel file. Such evaluation must be based on fact and be an objective review of the employee's performance. Supervisors will review the evaluation with each employee. The employee may attach a written comment to the evaluation and will sign the form to verify they were provided an opportunity for review. So the main change in this is changing the date of evaluation so that everybody will be reviewed in April, so that we don't have to keep track of everybody's having a review date on the anniversary of their employment, which I think makes a lot of sense.
It seems to, and basically town meeting time could be a good reminder. Hey, don't forget, April's right around the corner. Annual reviews are due.
Are we gonna require, I mean, Dan McKenzie, Travis full-time, Danielle full-time, things like that. Are we gonna require these part-time guys to go through a review?
We haven't.
Because we've never done it, so
No,
I think
it's
it
just-
should, I think it should be
Well-
stated in the policy though, that that way somebody doesn't come back sometime and go, well, why aren't they getting a review? So I think we need to just make sure that.
maybe we
do that.
put a sentence in,
Yeah.
they're volunteer, what we pay them.
Yeah.
Just the
But
sentence,
it says
the volunteer fire department is not included in this.
Well, it says employees, so
Right.
they're not.
They're still-
Yeah, but
they're still paid.
we're technically paid, so it's, we're covered on the MMA's, as employee for workman's comp and everything else.
So we put a note saying voluntary firefighters / EMTs are not considered employee for these purposes, for this
We
purpose.
still get a merit raise, but we don't do a review.
You don't do.
But it's the
It's
student-
usually
it's
across the board,
Right,
so I just think there needs to be some wording for an exemption in there so that somebody doesn't come back from the transfer station, and say, well, in the fire department, this is, everybody doesn't get reviewed. So it could cause problems down the
Yeah,
road.
agree. It should be very clear.
And can we clear that up and bring that back at the next meeting so that we have a clean copy?
Yes,
We
Yeah.
have-
yes. Do you want to approve the changes as they're presented and then have me add a line to address those part-time or voluntary fire department members and bring that back before you fully approve?
well, I think if our consensus is we like this, then it's just adding that one line and we can do that quickly at the next meeting, right?
I agree.
Yeah,
I like this so far. I think
Yeah.
Dan's point is a good one.
Okay.
yeah,
I'll
just
do
add that in and
I'll make-
we can do it quickly.
Yeah.
George has his hand up.
George,
Question, and this is from, having been a supervisor of 45 people. If you have a part-time volunteer that's paid, receives benefits, and they're not performing the job well, or at all, or they're negligent, how do you discipline them? How do you terminate them if you're not doing performance evaluations?
Bruce,
In the fire department, we have SOPs or operating procedures, and then that it has the procedures. One is versus, don't quote me on this, but first I believe is a verbal warning, second is a written warning. It's the same policy that for any other employee in town.
But since they're public employees, you need to have a basis for that, and that basis is always performance evaluations under state law.
That's correct.
so you're saying we should be doing performance evaluations?
I think so, because I don't think that you could terminate somebody that's really screwing up.
We have to fight. That's a lot of response, responsibility, a lot of time that the chief has to put in. That's not a full-time paid chief.
It does not.
It doesn't have to be complicated.
I don't think it has to be the chief. You can delegate it to whoever's a supervisor.
Well, it's multiple, yeah, it could be. I mean, there's multiple supervisors.
I mean, I would verify that with either MMA or the town attorney, but, that's my understanding of state law.
Right, I know fire department never.
Never know. I
I've
mean,
been
we
on
have,
there 25 years. And
I mean, we're in a process right now, redoing the chief side, we're redoing the SOPs and the operating procedures. We're going through that now to bring to.
So,
But I think it's worth,
Yeah,
I think it's worth checking to make sure that,
because if you don't,
right,
and it's required, then this fire department's vulnerable to, being, accused of, just a random act, without giving somebody due process and without, having a basis for that personnel decision, in which case, it'll cost the town a lawsuit.
Well, maybe when you get a chance to look at it, that maybe whatever Bruce is talking about becomes what their evaluation is.
Yeah, yeah, and it
That may
doesn't
be.
necessarily have to be the same as for the town manager, you know?
right, exactly, yeah,
Right.
that's what I'm saying, it doesn't have to be doesn't have to be
No, it doesn't.
complicated.
Yeah.
No, it just has to give you a factual basis to evaluate, whether or not somebody,
Just double check.
well, first off, should get the merit increase, and secondly, whether they are performing the job
Right.
satisfactorily.
So maybe what we need to do is, or Lauren can do, is check with Dan on what that form looks like. Does it meet, let him and I say, yes, that checks us off, so checks it.
Right now,
It doesn't.
we're in the process of changing it. So.
Yeah,
And it may be there's something unique to volunteer fire departments that I don't know about.
Yeah, I
I'm
mean, it's
experienced.
not like you advertise a job, we could hire somebody part-time in town.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but if they are truly considered employees
It's a paid
legally,
volunteer, yeah.
Municipal, we're municipal firefighters.
yeah.
Mhm.
Oh,
Okay, thank you, George, good point.
Which
okay.
Okay, so we'll revisit this with more information. I make a motion to open the discussion and consideration of new planning board ordinance and warrant article for June.
Second.
So the planning board has drafted an ordinance to reestablish the board under current state. Town attorney Phil Sochier has reviewed and made his edits and recommendations, which clarifies the board already does exist, and this ordinance simply reestablishes it. Phil does not think the terms need to be staggered, since provision would only apply if it was a new board. The planning board will review the updated edits from Phil at their April 6th meeting, and here we are. With approval to proceed from the board. Oh, sorry, that's your, we're not the planning board.
Should we be looking at this before the planning board gets a chance to do the review at the April 6th meeting? Because this was like us jumping ahead of them. And that's not normally how we do things.
Right, with approval to proceed from the board of select persons, the ordinance could be included for secret ballot. The ordinance should be finalized no later than April 18th.
Right.
This is your first
So
look at it.
So this is just our first, look at it. We're not voting to approve it tonight, right?
If
Well, it
nothing
says
else-
Discussion and consideration,
Consideration.
which indicates a potential vote.
Okay, so it says review and approve all at first or second meeting in April. So let's put that. to
Why
the
are we
second.
reestablishing this?
And I think you'll want to give direction to the planning board so that when you all review it Thursday night, you know that the select board is on board with moving this forward. Right, George?
right, yeah, I mean, the planning board's already approved basic ordinance, draft ordinance once already unanimously. And these comments from the town attorney are inconsequential. They're minor edits. So I don't anticipate there being a whole lot of problem, but and to answer your question, Dan, it might be helpful if I gave you a little bit of background, because I believe you were asking why we even bothering to do this.
Yeah, you know, why do you have to do that?
So maybe the easiest way to do that, and Peter, please jump in, in your former role, maybe the best way to do this is to go over the timeline of how the planning board was historically established. So the planning board was established in 1970 at town meeting originally. And it was established under a 1957 statute. In 1971, the legislature repealed that statute. And enacted what most of us know today as home rule. And that's the statute that planning boards are currently adopted under, and established under. But that law in 1971 allowed towns to continue to operate their planning boards that were established under the 1957 law. But you had to abide by the very strict standards in that law, the requirements of the law. And that law was very specific about number of members, their terms were 5 years long, and a number of other things versus home rule, which the whole purpose of home rule was to give municipalities more flexibility on how it established its boards and committees and all matter of municipal government. Fast forward to 1991, the select board at the time is, we believe, we being Mary, Warren and I, that the select board at that time adopted a charter for the planning board, spelling out how it should operate, including how it should operate public hearings. We can't find a, Mary and Lauren cannot find a signed copy of it. All the planning board members, we all get that when we become a member, but nobody has a signed copy of it. We have copies that were made from copies that were made from copies. They're barely legible. But assuming that was signed by the select board in 1991, that's essentially what the planning board's ever since 1991. That's how we've been operating, including currently under those rules. And that spells out, again, number of members, terms, 3-year terms, not 5-year terms, as was the law when the board was established. The town attorneys confirmed that that should have gone to town meeting. The select board didn't have the authority to approve that. So there's that issue. And there's also the question of, do we update and establish the planning board under current statute, which will give the town considerable more flexibility, plus include a 3-year term versus a 5-year term. The planning board's pretty concerned 5-year terms, retaining people and attracting people is going to be difficult. Or do we just continue to operate under the 1957 statute? The recommendation of the town attorney and our recommendation is that we essentially reestablish the planning board, reaffirm that all its decisions made in the past are still valid, and do so via this ordinance, which is basically, it is an MMA model ordinance for doing exactly that. We're not unique in this situation. So that's the background that brought us to this point. And it was something that we weren't looking for. It was just something when we started asking questions about how do we had a member that asked for a long-term leave of absence. And the question was, well, what rules apply to this, and that led us to this.
So rather than being on shaky ground, we concluded that by going with this, we'd be on solid ground going forward. And quite frankly, as a member of the planning board at that time, we were looking to the future too. Like, we wanted the town to be in the best position. So that they look back, anybody look back at decisions made, say in 2023, that it was based on solid foundation, such as this ordinance. Because we knew the other way could be picked apart fairly easily. So.
Yeah.
So thank you, George, for that.
Thank you.
Great summary.
No, the 1991 change should have been approved at town meeting. Would this need to go to town meeting? Because June is not town meeting. It's not a special town meeting that we're calling, it's a referendum. So if it should originally have been approved at the annual town meeting, are we in a pickle if we don't do this at town meeting?
I meant by the voters.
Okay. So it doesn't have to be at the annual town meeting.
Yeah. No, not
Because
town, not town meeting, by the voters.
By the legislative body.
I let our town attorney know that if the board approved that we could get it on the June ballot, which is when the school voting would be done. And he didn't have any issue with that.
right, that's why I was checking on the town meeting. people
Yeah,
that-
no, I was being a little imprecise.
If you want to be safe, no, they just call a special town meeting for that date and put it on the secret ballot.
Right, that's one thing is that there's just a way to make sure that that doesn't come
That way
back.
it's a town meeting.
I think the ballot in June would be,
But it's just what we call it. We could call it a special
Right,
town
'cause I
meeting.
mean,
Yeah.
technically,
It's
a
a
ballot
question.
isn't the
The
legislature.
legislature or the select board that gets to approve it.
Right, well, I'm just thinking of the last thing that we had that Becky sleuthed out for us, that it had to be, it was a decision by the board that then had to be followed up and approved at the annual town meeting.
Yeah, yeah,
So
no, this
this-
is voters, like any
So
other
as long as it's
ordinance.
just a
Okay,
legislative.
If that's what it is, that's fine.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll wait and approve this in 2 weeks after the planning board
Yeah,
approves.
have the planning board take another look at it and come.
Yeah,
forward with
especially now that you get this
recommendations, and then do the
Yeah.
They ought to
process
be
that
able
we
to,
start.
probably ought to sign off on it.
But this functions as a good heads up to the select person.
Yeah.
Which, that was one of the things, given the tight timeline that we discussed, it was,
Yep.
hey, things are moving, shouldn't the select persons know?
Yeah.
Yes, they should. So, does that help, Dan, answer your questions? They really-
So I'll be back in touch with Warren to let her know on the outcome of that vote on Thursday.
Perfect. Can you send that to us so that we know?
yes, ma'am.
Perfect.
Okay, thank you, George.
Right, here, Joe.
Thank you, Peter.
Do we had any pushback on the solar ordinance?
Well, Peter can also talk to this, the developers for, the facility out 8 and 11, that's been sold to another corporation. And that representative of that corporation were on the agenda of the planning board 2 meetings ago, something like that. And it wasn't so much pushback as questions about the ordinance and a little bit of pushback on the most limiting factor for them is the restriction that doesn't allow them to clear cut more than 10 acres. And for all intents and purposes, that makes that project infeasible. But they did mention that they were exploring acquiring or the rights to property across the highway, which is largely field. But we don't know. We haven't heard anything back from them. So
they're talking about the other side that overlooks the other lake.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah, and the
That
junk,
would fly to
and the
that
junkyard. And the junkyard that's there.
Right, and we talked at that time about the 10 acres part with them, so they were trying to figure out, could this even work? And it seemed.
Yeah, yeah.
It seemed like it would not. But they have to figure it out.
Why somebody would develop, purchase the rights to this development without knowing the answer to that question beforehand is beyond me, but anyway, that's the only thing,
I was just curious, because,
the only inquiry we've had.
you know, every time we have a session, they get a bunch of different people down in the Hall of Flag. And one of the weeks having a few people that have been dealing with conservation and losing good plantable fields to solar farms, and they were happy that we had passed this ordinance. So I was just curious, there's not much pushback with that. And that monstrosity they built in Augusta with the rotaries. I already been blinded once on that
Oh,
one
that's
by Sears.
awful.
I came around the corner at just the right time of day, and it just, the light, we hit that and it hit me right in the eyes. I went, oh crap, somebody's gonna be killed.
We have such a beautiful state and that's how we welcome.
And that's how you
folks
welcome-
to
yeah, I
be in
know.
the state.
Okay, I was just curious.
Community.
Thanks.
That's horrible.
Thank you,
Okay.
George.
Thank you.
Thanks,
George.
George.
You're welcome.
Okay, I make a motion to open the discussion and consideration of the strategic planning goal setting session.
Second,
So this actually came from me. I just thought that it would be helpful for us, rather than taking the time from the meeting, to just have an opportunity for 2 or 3 hours, however much time we think we need, to kind of look at the big projects that we have coming up this year, talk about some deadlines, and talk in some detail about some of the projects, maybe for Peter's benefit as a new select board member. So that's where this came from.
I had a question, if you don't mind. So would some of the strategic planning and goal setting sessions involve, I know we had some ideas that are here that.
Yeah,
Oh, that's all.
that's the art.
Okay,
That's
so
the art.
that's not on part of this then. So
Right.
I would be very interested at some point to hear more about strategic planning and goal setting for the town.
It's not something that we've really done since I've been on the board. Maybe it's been done in the past, but it just seemed like, and it would be a public meeting. But it just seemed like, we have some big issues with, the water system, the comprehensive plan coming up.
We used to have a board like the whiteboard.
Yeah,
It used to be in Denny's office or whoever, and
right.
it used to have all the things that every time we come up with something, it would get listed on the board, so we wouldn't forget.
Maybe get
I
suggested,
keep
find a
asking
spot on the
for
wall to put a board back up to do that. That's what I had my hand up is, you should have a whiteboard that with this year's projects, or things that, so that way there at.
Short term, long term.
Right, because all of us, committees are now working on 3-year, 5-year, 10-year plans. Probably, you guys as a board should be thinking about this, you guys want us to do that, you guys as a board maybe want to start doing the same thing and having a whiteboard to go on. I mean, it's, it's something that's not gonna happen tomorrow. It's gonna take time to develop and time to, get used to it, but I think we're all of us departments are all trying to do 3, 5, and 10-year plans and.
So that board used to be that whiteboard. And then it got
erased.
Turned into that
We
one.
tried to save some of it, and then it was, when we had the chip sealing thing, it got wiped away, so then it became the ARPA one. But the whiteboard was always the go-to for that, and I brought it up probably 50 times in the last few years, and the whiteboard still doesn't exist, so,
So do we need to just get a second whiteboard?
yeah.
You need one that hangs, so we can't get.
Yeah, we also need to find a place to put it so that it's not. Just
Available for use.
yeah.
Right.
Now Lorna has a pretty comprehensive, she gets a pretty comprehensive whiteboard at her office, in her office. But, that's for her own purposes, which are.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know
Ours
if
and-
we get another one or two of them or a good size one. We just got to throw them and put it.
Do you want that size or Do you want it larger?
I'd say a little size of that.
That sign?
That sign,
Oh, the big sign?
yeah.
I mean, if we're doing short term and long term.
Yeah.
You put it sideways and you'd
I
have,
don't know, we got room here for two of them.
I don't know, I don't see any of them space.
It's right there, only place I see around that wall.
Is there room for two of them first?
I think so. I think two would fit on the side by side.
That's a good area to use, that
That way-
size.
That way, then you guys can turn around and look at it at a meeting, see it during a meeting, but it's out of a way that people ain't gonna mess with it.
But it's also our, kind of our information, which is why it was always in the town manager's office, because we
Yeah.
could add to that list.
We may
if
be
it
able
was
to find a wall in the
necessary.
main office in there, other than the town manager's office, because that's something else I want to talk about real quick. Once we get done with this, I've got another, something small with that, so.
well, would it make sense to maybe take some of the pictures that are on that wall and put them on the back wall or side wall? And then we open up that wall for the whiteboards.
Well,
I'm not
but
crazy about putting a whiteboard out here in the middle of this room. I think one that's having all that, I'm gonna call it crap. Paint cans, to me, I mean, this
Yeah.
is supposed to be a nice area, a nice meeting area.
I like the idea of having it in
I
the
think
office.
in the main office, because that way,
Yeah.
So what does everybody think about getting together for planning, not decision making? But kind of a
Would it be like
planning session?
a meeting outside of the normal sort of cadence? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah,
when you call in
I can-
on that other thing, can you ask them if we get together for like they have these retreats where people go to? If we can do that as a board, when
What were
we
you saying?
make decisions, we don't have to deal with it as a public meeting, because it's just brainstorming. It's not like, so just to find out if we can legally do that.
Okay.
I think we start with the whiteboards and put up there what we keep saying is we can't forget to this, we can't forget about that. One of them's a bullseye. That's always been my go-to, like, what's your main goal? What do you have in the second tier? So out here is what we already have that will lead us to this main goal. The middle ring is what do we still have to do to accomplish the main goal? And then the main goal is the bullseye.
yeah. Well, and I know people's time is not readily available, so.
I just asked Lorna when she's checking with MMA on the other stuff. They're asking if we can get together to do brainstorming without having to have it as a public meeting, because we're not making decisions or anything outside. Let's find out if we can do that.
Okay,
Yeah, I think there's probably some merit, some things about, well, what if, or whatever, looking forward, or some of those things
I
that
think
we
we can get
know we
together.
need to look at.
I think we
And
can get together and brainstorm like that. I mean, we have 150 people in the legislature do it all the time. You know, have a public hearing,
right,
would like to see this, would like to see that. So let's find out, make sure we can do it as a select board. And start with the whiteboards.
okay, and then we'll maybe we should just plan to devote some time at upcoming meetings. If we, if we have a draft, if someone drafts what we want to have on whiteboard A and whiteboard B, then we can talk about it for half an hour at a meeting. That's not too bad.
Yeah, it could be an agenda item, just to say, hey, let's brainstorm on this.
Yeah.
That could work.
Yeah, I know. And I mean, I think it's, for me, I like to be able to kind of step away and just have some time to think about things in generalities, but I'm not working, so I have more time available than some, so.
The other thing I want to bring up real quick before we move on. When they were talking about security in schools today. We put in these roll cages out here to secure the office. And I have a sign on the door out there that says not to go in unless you're an employee. I don't want to see people from committees or people from town or now just wandering in and out of this office anymore. We need to either lock that door and have access. That either we have a key when we come in or have somebody come over and open the door for us, or we need to put a push button lock on that door. Because having those cages there are great, And having the plexiglass there is great. But if somebody can open that door and walk in, it doesn't do you any good. And I've actually walked in here before during the day, when there wasn't even anybody at the counter. They got up and gone to the bathroom because there was only one person working at the counter, and Nick was in the back room and Lorna was in her office. And so I think we need to think about some security.
then this-
The
then
doors
this door-
definitely should be locked. I
This
mean,
door would have to be locked too.
And that's
Right.
fine.
Yeah,
because there's a very select few who have keys to get in these doors. So if the door, if you lock it, you don't have to do a keypad, you just lock the doors.
Yeah.
That will take care of your problem.
You
That'll
can
take
either do
care of
that,
it.
or like I said, if they want to put in the electron, the lock that you can buy that has the push buttons to unlock it, like we have at the fire department,
Yeah.
so that we have a code. But there's a lot of information in this town office, even during the day, that people shouldn't be wandering around and have access to be able to look over somebody's shoulder for or anything else.
And wasn't the sign that's up, Lorna, that says non-public area,
right.
wasn't that in response to the First Amendment requests?
Yes.
To establish that
Those
as,
two individuals that came in and were taping and that sort of.
In
thing.
Waterville- in
And
Waterville.
This is a public building, so they can.
right,
But they can't go into where we have sensitive
Right, that's a secure,
information
it's
or,
supposed to be a secure area.
or
Right.
personnel information, which they might see that we can't do. And that's what our attorney, Bernstein Sure, put out to all of their clients,
right.
is to, put up signage that says non-public
Non-public
area.
Non-public, just so we
But,
can
and,
enforce
and
it.
so that's to prevent First Amendment.
No, that's anybody.
No, I know,
But it was
it's,
put out.
but it's in
Correct.
response,
You are
it's in
absolutely
response to,
Yes.
it's to establish what's a public area and what's a
Parameters.
non-public
Yeah,
area.
yeah,
But that doesn't have anything to do with physical security.
Right. And like I said, there's a lot of information on there. We've got all of these committees, all these people in the committees. I just don't want people to think they can walk in and just walk in to talk to somebody without
Now,
being invited into that area.
Yeah, I mean, I go in that door all the time.
But we're also the select board. We have keys to the building.
Does our key to the building unlock the doors inside? Yes. Oh, okay.
Okay, so I'll need a key then. Can I put- If I'm doing that, I will have to have a key.
Dan's resisted all these years having a key.
I thought that was a separate key than the door key.
No,
I thought that was a
the
master
outside
key.
door key and the one to the center door, the same key.
Same, I can get in the front door and then you go in.
Yeah, so I thought
It's
that's
a
master
master.
keys.
It's a master.
Yeah.
Unless you
But
want.
your door is,
Well, whatever the board wants to do, I want to find a way to secure that.
When I come get my book after hours, I unlock the front door, I unlock back door.
What about a swipey, a card swipe?
It's money. It's
Yeah.
cost of money. I just,
Yeah. I mean, I think to gain what you guys need to do, what you're looking for, is just lock the door.
Right.
Yeah.
That's it, just lock the door. I mean-
I think we need to find a way to secure it better than we're securing.
You know, during the day, when it's a work, I'm here doing a service call or something, I always ask permission to come in the door. You know, sometimes I come in the back door, but I come in the back door and I come this way to, like check that thermostat or check another thermostat. But usually if I'm going out where the employees are working, I always ask permission before I go in, because I don't, I could go in that door and if somebody didn't see me come in,
And start on
I'm
it.
startled. So I always ask permission before I go in.
Yeah, I just wanted to bring it up because I think we're a little lax on security.
But yeah, like I said, the door's always unlocked. I mean, we all feel we all live in the country, blah, blah, blah. And we all fall in that same boat, every one of us. But unfortunately, the world is changing and,
I lock my doors when I'm at home.
yeah, we do now. I never did.
Absolutely.
Always, I say.
We never did. We do.
And additional security measures are in place.
I agree
Yeah.
with that.
Must be.
So anyway, we can move on. I just wanted to bring that up.
Okay, so the consensus is that we won't schedule a strategic planning goal setting session at this time.
Right.
We'll get some whiteboards and Warner will check with MMA as to whether we can have a session like that wouldn't have to be public.
Okay,
Okay,
Thank you.
all right.
okay. Now, I put this on for other business just in case there was something that we need to discuss that didn't make it onto the agenda. But
I did let Barbara know that that's illegal. So we actually can have a little surprise thing there, but once the agenda is set, the agenda is set. And once the public is noticed, we can have a mystery one there that we could tuck other things into that wouldn't be publicly noticed.
If we have something, if Lorna had something that came up today that needed to be discussed, how much notice? Could she republish the agenda today for tonight's meeting?
If there's something that's an emergency, then that's something that she would already have brought to the board's attention. It should not be being done in a public meeting. It should never be a surprise to anyone what goes on in our agenda. That's the whole point of having a published agenda and having the background information. Is that we are conducting everything in public. We can't expect for folks to stay till the end of the meeting in case there's something else that we're gonna discuss.
No, I guess, so my question is, if something came up that we wanted to include, could that be put on and be the new agenda published on Monday? So it could be discussed on Tuesday. What's the time frame? That's what I'm asking is
I
how,
don't believe agendas are required by law, by main statute.
typically what?
I don't believe agendas are required by main statute.
so I guess that's what we.
Another,
need to find out.
another question you can ask.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're not. If you look in your officer's manual,
Yeah.
it tells you.
But I'm just saying, so
I think it's a courtesy.
It's clearly a
I read it
courtesy.
as a courtesy.
It's not required by law. First,
But the only biggest thing is having a cutoff point for agenda. You could have an agenda, usually Thursday, correct me if I'm wrong, on Thursday is usually your cutoff date.
I
for
did,
agenda
yeah, I
items.
try to have everything out to the board Friday, yes.
Yeah.
yes.
So Thursday's a cutoff date, so that gives you guys as a board time to read the packets, us as citizens, time to read the packets. And then if you add if you add more stuff on Monday, I may not go back and catch
No,
that.
I'm just asking the question.
You know,
Not that I
if
want
it's
to
an
know that.
emergency, 100%, yes, but if it's something that could wait till the next meeting,
Mhm.
then it should wait till the next, that's my opinion, just as a citizen.
Okay, well, what I had in mind under other business was, because I was away traveling last week, so I didn't have a chance to do anything with this before, but was the process for evaluating for performance review for the town manager. And this is not that this should be, discussed in substance right now, but how, we had talked about how we're going to do that. And so I had a couple of forms. I left one for everybody at your place. So we can talk about it. I know that it would be good to get these done. How do we discuss the process of this? Wait for another 2 weeks to discuss the process? Melanie, how do we discuss this?
Oh, I think we've already discussed bringing these back at our last meeting, but we were gonna come up with some ideas, because what we had came from Anthony. And, when he was town manager, he actually said, I would feel more comfortable if you had an overview from everyone that I interact with. So it was not felt to be somehow punitive. It was more, he also wanted to know what the perception was of how he was. So I think that it's a good idea.
Yeah, no, I think it's a good idea. I didn't really know enough about the 360 feedback process when you first mentioned it, but I've done some reading on it and I think that there's value to it. I was concerned about whether it's too soon in Lorna's tenure, but as she stays month after month, now we've got some extra time. So I just did, a very brief, 1 through 5 for statements, and then a couple of short answer questions. These would be anonymous, and hopefully wouldn't take too much time, and it's just mainly to, get some feedback. And it's not meant to be, I think it's meant to be, positive. But there were sort of two bits of this. One was, for department heads and committee chairs to fill out, and, recognizing that we have a new town manager who's been here now for 7 months, and, but, it's just kind of good to get a snapshot of, where things are at this point, how things are going. And then the other one was, a performance review questionnaire that the town manager would actually fill out.
Okay, so what I would envision, Barbara, was I thought we were working on this, that it was not going to be pointedly for a particular town manager. That the 360 evaluation feedback form would be able to be, if Lorna wasn't the town manager, the next town manager. So at their 6-month review, at their yearly review, that this is when, so that the form would carry forward and not be reinvented. Because I like some of the stuff here, but I would take out some of the very specifics about, since she just started this role, or is she, I think we need to have she, he language, she, he, them, if we're keeping consistent. But
I don't know. I mean, I think that with the ease of changing word processing, it's easy enough to change if we have a male town manager, it's easy enough to change the she to he.
But why would we just have one form that would carry forward and become part of our forms that we use?
Well, couldn't you say so that the town manager can use the feedback to learn and develop and make it more generic? If you want to, instead of he, she. I mean, I think that's the only, is that the only place?
Since she,
She, if you, so that the town manager can use the feedback to learn and develop as a leader. Leader and manager. So,
yeah, and these questions were taken from a longer form. But I just sort of picked the ones that seemed most germane to our situation here in Belgrade. From a main human resources consultant.
I have a question about timeline. Do we expect to do one of these, whatever we choose, in the near future, like next 2 months or something?
yeah, we should have done.
Like it should have been done last month.
So how we phrase it is that the town manager will have their 6-month review on or around their 6-month anniversary date.
So we do want to get this in place.
Because then next thing we know, it's gonna be the year coming up.
Wait, but everybody's being reviewed in April. So we have 2 weeks.
We got a full 2 weeks. So is it in our best interest to try to decide if we want to use this format? We want to do that tonight? Is that what we're trying to do? Because I think we're mostly there.
It would be good if we could.
Because we need to get it going.
We need to get it going. And so the idea with the 360, Melanie, correct me if I'm wrong, is that it would go to department heads and committee chairs. And this can be set up easily as a survey monkey, if we think that that would be the easiest way to do it for people, and that more ensures anonymity.
And then we would have, you have a week to get this back to us, so that it's not, we're not talking about this in July.
Right, exactly.
So are we not going, so Anthony had specifically asked that we include the employees under him. Are we not going to include them?
They're department heads.
They're not all department heads.
Well, department heads, I mean, I was including, and this is not the right way to phrase it, but I was assuming anyone who reports directly to the town manager.
So maybe if we. I just wanted,
So that would include the code enforcement officer. Is he to consider the department head? He doesn't really have a department, I guess.
He's
town-
he's
the
his
town-
own department and that's.
Yeah. But I would think you'd want the code enforcement officer.
Right, the code enforcement officer, the treasurer, the town clerk, and
The
rec,
Facilities.
Facilities,
rec,
right.
library,
Yes,
transfer station,
Yeah.
Fire chief.
yeah.
fire chief,
fire
yeah.
chief.
and then what was your thing for anonymity? Well, I missed that last part.
Oh, well, I mean, these are anonymous.
Right, but how will they be able to guarantee anonymity? So when I.
If we do it online as a Survey Monkey, this is pretty simple to set up as a Survey Monkey. We've done Survey Monkey.
How does that do as far as keeping our stuff private and personal?
I'm sorry, what, Melanie?
If we do a Survey Monkey,
Yeah,
how does that keep the information? I just want to be sure as a municipality can we use a Survey Monkey for something when it comes to an evaluation.
Well, the information that the data that's presented has to go somewhere. I was thinking that it would probably go to one of us, since we're the ones who are conducting the review. It wouldn't be appropriate to have it go to.
no, it should come to
To
you
Lorna.
as chair.
Right, should go to the chair
So
and the
it
chair
come-
shares
it
it.
come to me.
Chair, so we have a meeting in
Session.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly, yeah.
Yeah, it would
Yeah.
come to me rather than going to another employee.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
it would
yeah,
need to
needs
definitely
go-
come to
right.
you.
It needs to go to the
But
chair.
I think
and
the
then-
survey, I think the Survey Monkey is pretty, I think that's pretty secure.
It's pretty easy to do when they're
It's
done
easy to do.
timely.
Yeah, and we don't want to create anything that takes an hour and a half to fill out because.
Right.
Right.
Not gonna get filled out. And I believe I'm correct, can you tell from Survey Monkey who's responded, or we don't know? We don't know what they've said. So
Oh, I don't know.
if this is set to pick a number, 15 people, and you get 11 responses,
That's what you get.
that's what you get. So
Right.
we
Yeah.
won't necessarily know who hasn't responded.
Right.
Okay,
We give people a deadline. We hope that they will take the time,
right.
but it's nothing that's,
If it doesn't, then
Required.
we know. It may not be as effective as we think it will be, but we won't know till we try.
right.
So we could probably move ahead, if everybody's in agreement, I think we'd probably move ahead using a tool like Survey Monkey. And do it this way this time and see
See
how
how it
we,
goes.
yeah.
See how it goes.
If we are not happy with the results, like if people are not filling them out, then we have to do something else.
Yeah, if we come back with 3 out of 15,
If
then
they
we
don't
say.
fill
gee,
them out, then we don't worry about it. They don't fill them out.
Yeah, I mean, there would be at least 5.
Right,
They don't fill
it
that-
just tells us it's ineffective or effective in terms of using it as a tool. That's
Right.
all. Right, it's,
So if we can use this and get it up and back, then we could set a date to gather the information from it, either after next meeting or set up a special. The following Tuesday, have a special meeting to discuss it. I don't know how everyone wants to do it, but. So that by the end of April, we will have our stuff together. But if we can get it, so we say the deadline is,
Well, our last meeting in April is April 18th.
right,
So we'd want to have this information back by the end of next week.
right. So if we could, if it could be set up this week, I mean, depending on how quickly we set up Survey Monkey. And people get it, they have a week or they get it on Sunday or Monday and they have it back by
Friday.
Friday or Saturday. Then you'd have 2 or 3 days to compiling the responses. People are either gonna do it right away or they're not gonna do it.
Exactly.
Right, right.
Yeah, it's not like, oh, I'm gonna put that Survey Monkey away and come back.
and those people who do report to. Who will be asking to fill this out, they should be made aware to look out for an email that says, hey,
Right,
go to Survey Monkey, fill it out, you have until this date to do it.
Right.
Otherwise, they'll be like, What the heck is this thing?
Yeah, what's the survey?
And is there anybody,
To click a link.
Right.
right, and is there anybody for whom this would be a challenge? Which committee chairs or
Technology wise,
technology wise, yeah,
Like these.
survey monkeys, really
it's
easy.
pretty basic.
Actually, you could say if somebody has a problem, to give you a call and you can either work them through it or do a paper one.
Okay, yeah,
Something.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think there's anyone that would. You think a committee chair that would have a problem?
I mean, I don't know if you want to send it to every single committee. I think important boards like planning board,
budget.
ones that the town manager typically work with, some of these committees, I don't think. The town manager isn't involved with them a lot. So,
But why would we selectively, why would we just send it out, and if they don't have any interaction with the town manager, they can send it back and say. they
You
don't
can,
have
I
any
guess, if
interaction
you
with the
want
town
to.
manager.
Yeah.
Cause I wouldn't want to self-determine that any one committee is more important than another and what they're saying is.
Well, I think you could say if you've had no interaction or,
Or
don't feel
just say NA,
NA, yeah,
Right.
not, I don't know the person in that context,
yeah,
or they don't fill it out.
or they don't fill it out.
Okay,
That can work. So are you okay to take this and make it into the survey
yeah,
on Survey Monkey?
I'll try it.
And she'll call you, Peter.
Yeah.
She has your number on
What are you doing
speed
this
dial.
weekend, Peter?
Hosting Easter,
Ah.
cleaning a cookie.
I mean, I wouldn't necessarily deal with all the explanation you had in the paragraph, so just, I'd give the key for how to score it. And just say, we're sending this out. If you want to fill it out and participate, go for it.
Okay,
Just score each question.
yeah, this is HR speak that I just copied.
Yeah, and I think I would just, if this is something we look at, we could possibly do longer, then I would say. The focus on the town manager, period, not just over the past 6 months.
Yeah.
Well, I think you could say it's time for a review of it. I mean, we're not doing this randomly. This is,
Right.
we are,
Right.
we
It's
are
part of
required to do a
accountable.
six-month
Just
review
explain-
and we.
You gotta explain it, it's part of our review process, if you want to participate.
Right, so that they don't think, gee, how come we're getting one of these all of a sudden?
Right,
And think, ooh,
And the other thing is that
ooh,
you guys-
what's happening?
You gotta
Well, they
give,
have
the
them
you gotta give the person a chance to get their feet wet. I mean,
Right.
6 months is really, you just barely dipping your toes in it. 6
Right.
months, you know?
right.
Yeah. So maybe, yeah. Yeah,
Okay,
okay,
so do you want me to send this out to everybody? And
Yeah,
final form?
Yes.
I'm okay with that. I think.
You're
if
in
we
charge
just
of monkey
tweak it a little bit. Can
Okay,
you send us, because one of the things I don't know is when something goes out, but we don't get noticed on it. Right. So if it goes out, can we get a notification that this is what went out?
yes,
well, won't we also get them? Or are we not going to get them? Or are we just gonna evaluate what we get back for responses?
yeah, no, we could fill them out too, why not?
I would make that suggestion,
Yeah.
because that way you guys can make your own decisions on how you're gonna fill that out. And send it in, but you guys will make the final decision,
Right.
when you guys discuss it.
Right,
That's just that's just something,
and this is just,
It's a tool.
it's just
all
a
it is.
tool, it's just a way of checking in and, seeing what questions
Right.
people have.
I mean, I liked it when Anthony brought it up and, a year ago, a year and a half ago, because I thought it was a very good idea.
I did too, and it didn't feel like, it felt like what a great idea and not like, oh no. That should never happen. We shouldn't.
But even
I
then,
was like, that's. a
even then, I
great
don't
idea.
think we only got what, 5 or 6 back.
No, remember we got, I think it was, no, it was like 11 or something. But it was, there were some that were more detailed than others, so I remember there were like 5 with this one type of
Yeah,
answer.
maybe, because I didn't see a whole lot of complete ones.
We didn't do the survey monkey, and that was the thing, is we emailed it and tried to keep it anonymous, they could bring it back to the town office or. So that it didn't have to. be
I
signed
think
or
anonymity is important.
anything.
Yeah.
Too, if you want people to be honest.
Because,
Yeah,
right, because
absolutely.
people, if it's not if you know your name's gonna be brought up, a lot of people don't wanna do
And if there's. fair
Well, Bruce said.
contribution.
that. Yeah.
Okay, and so the other one that has blue and yellow, is this okay for the town manager to fill out? As a,
So basically, it's like a self-review.
a
Yeah.
self-review, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Looks
mean, I don't
fine
have
for
a
me.
problem with
Yeah.
making a uniform set of questions instead of us asking.
And can I make one other suggestion? I'm just, as a citizen here. So when you guys do a review, maybe the five of you give what you kind of what you guys expect from the town manager, so, well, this person may want a little bit of this information, is, just so whoever's town manager, so they can, know, so they can be prepared for a meeting, for staff, and it's not, they're not kind of blindsided and say, oh, shoot, I don't have that information, it's tough, they know what to expect from the five of you. Granted, it changes yearly, but again, it just, I think it will help you guys as a board, and it will help the town manager if they, if all you guys know what.
If everyone knows each other's expectations.
Yeah, it's not much, I mean, no, you can't go, I want this and this, but, just a highlight from.
Right. Okay, so we're good?
I think we're good.
We are
Are we good?
Mhm. Okay. Moving on, warrants.
Okay.
Okay,
Rock and
Make a
roll.
motion that we open the payroll warrant number 36 in the amount of 16,000. Wait, what's the total payroll? 969.27.
Second.
Yes. Any questions on payroll warrant number 36? No. All in favor, Dan?
Yes.
Carol?
Yes.
Yes.
No, yes, Barbara, yeah, okay, 5 and 4. Warrant number 37, AP warrant, State of Maine DMV, in the amount of $7,514.75.
Make that motion.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, Peter?
Yes.
Melanie? Yes. Carol?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Barbara? Yes. 5 in favor.
How come we have a separate payroll warrant behind?
Because his timesheet was late, brought it in after the payroll warrant had been done. That was the, wasn't included.
Okay, I move that we consider warrant 38 in the amount of payroll warrant in the amount of $710.49.
Second.
Any more discussion? Dan?
Yes.
Cheryl?
Yes.
Peter?
Yes.
No, yes, Barbara, yes, okay, 5 in favor. All right, AP warrant number 39, in the amount of $610,320.30.
Make the motion, we open that item.
Second, yes.
I just wanted to make note that at the end of the warrant, number 39, you have additional information listed in a different format, which might be helpful to you. It says department summary.
Mhm.
So
I actually like that.
each
Yeah.
department, it gives the list of those items that were paid on that warrant. And this is actually part of the payroll, AP process. When Nick runs the warrant,
Mhm.
it actually includes this, but it's never been included. Just because it's not the normal warrant.
Yeah.
But Barbara had asked if there were additional ways that you all could look at this information that might be helpful, and we found that Trio actually includes
Have you
this
seen this, Bruce?
version.
Yeah, I saw it on.
Actually
That's
includes
very
this
good. I like
version,
it.
so we thought we would include it because it might be helpful.
Yeah, I like it. Well. Okay, so there's one thing that I think we need to change, and I don't know if this is where we change it, but. When I was putting the information together on rents and expenses. There are 3 Dalton properties that are all being charged off to Dalton. And one of those is it's the little building down by the water. And that really should be a Center for All Seasons expense. So I think it's 18, but we need to take, I think we need to take that and put that over and code it to the Center for All Seasons, not to Dalton. And I think we can just do that, but when you start sorting by department, you see it's not there under being charged off to Center for All
Yeah,
Seasons.
'cause I think it's 2 other buildings that,
Well, there's the outbuilding and then that one, but
yeah.
the outbuildings charge Center for All Seasons, but that other one, and it's not a lot, it's just electricity, but when we start looking at what should we charge for rent, we have this money that's being charged to Dalton, which isn't a quote rental issue. So if no one has an objection to that, I would suggest that we change that. And I think it's 18, right? Am I right, Bruce?
Sounds right.
And there's 8, 10, and 18.
Yeah.
That's 18. And it's like $20 or $30 until summer when it goes up a little because they're using electricity. It's minor.
So there's a charge for central main power, $20.16, CFAS services, electricity. There's what would that small charge be for central? Systems? Because there's a larger CFAS.
That's gonna be
By
that little, the number 18.
History house, huh?
That's gonna be 18 Dalton, the $20.16.
But it's not
Under
breaking out here
facilities.
under.
If you look under facilities, page 2.
Well, maybe I
under
looked at the
department
old one.
Summary. Department summary, page 2.
2016, History House is 2016, Center for All Seasons, Dalton, $20.16.
Yeah, those are minimum charges for the.
Those are minimum charges. So one of them, I think, is the bathrooms, that outbuilding, the
Yeah.
bathrooms. And the other one is
Oh.
$20.16, which is Dalton. So you see there are 3 Daltons.
Right, the 18 is the garage. So there's a base cost for the garage, I think that we do is an 18.
Unless they've got a separate meter, it can't be a big.
The store, the old campground store is 18, I believe, and that has a meter on it.
Right, so that would be the basic. Nah, just not gonna use it a lot.
Right.
But is 18 the one that's down by the lake?
Yes.
Are you sure it's that, or are you sure it's, because the outbuilding, I think they call the bathroom.
Well, they've got one here that says Dalton. They,
Yeah.
when you look at this summary, there are 3 Daltons, and we
Right.
only have two that should be
Right. 'Cause
Dalton. The other should be changed from Dalton to
You'd have to
Center for All
check, go in on the, address and see which building is 18, but I thought the, whole store was 18. And I thought the camp wasn't considered, but maybe the camp is.
I've got a note here. too,
Okay,
to
okay,
just to
explore
check
that,
it.
to find out
Yeah,
that'd be
what
great.
18
So that
is.
sort of diverted us. I apologize for
So that-
diverting it, but if I did,
It's,
bring it up,
listed
I forget it.
correctly.
We had to check with the state on those book racks.
Yes, there were none that would be useful, the library ordered. Jared went down
Fine, they
first.
order them, they're on.
Yeah, he went down there first. I sent him there first, which he did go, and he called me. He said, I went down and looked, but it didn't happen.
Okay, any other questions on the warrant?
Oh, yeah, what did we do with the skid steer for the tune of $5,000 again?
I know.
So,
I mean, at this point, I'm over every single time. We are like. And it's
I
not-
believe that's
it's not
your labor
a couple
bill.
$100.
I think that was your labor bill for putting everything, taking everything out in the backyard, I
I
think.
thought we had the labor board piece last time, and that's why it was so
No,
high. but
It
this
was
didn't-
material. The material.
That was the labor for taking the complete engine out of the skid steer, repairing the fuel tank, repairing the one of the lines in there and repairing the window so it stops leaking inside the cab. Then there is the second charge for putting everything back in. So it's 8 to 10 hours of labor to take everything apart, 8 to 10 hours of labor plus parts to put everything back together.
Okay,
We did talk about that previously, didn't we? I thought we did.
I
That
think we did, but
They
I
were
didn't
gonna
think
have
it
to
Yeah.
was
take everything apart
that much.
to fix that.
But I could have sworn that that was on our last warrant, because we had a conversation, Corey, about how it was a lot more involved than we thought it was gonna be, and we had to take it all apart to get to the gas, to get to the hole in the fuel tank.
But you guys have told us gonna be another bill coming.
Yeah. So I don't
Yeah.
think I was doing 5 grand,
Yes, and another thing while we're
because
talking
these
about.
are all the pieces that we've got to make sure that this stuff is in the budget. We're in April. And if we're 5 grand here and 5 grand there, then we need to start deciding, once again, is it more beneficial for us to rent equipment and not be paying these kind of costs?
I mean, at this point, you pretty much got a brand new machine,
Oh, we're freaking better.
you know, but I mean, on the other hand is, so. When we purchased the brand new skid steer at the transfer station, we purchased a broom system to clean up, which I think you guys saw, when you guys came in out here, to clean the parking lots, to clean the intersections, and so on and so forth, so we don't have to rent a piece of equipment or pay for a piece of equipment. That was the whole purpose.
Because then we couldn't find equipment this year to do the sweeping, which is why it built up on the edges of the road and the intersections.
Right, so we have that piece of equipment now, so we probably ought to let the road commission know that that piece of equipment's here. When it's time for him to do the intersections, he needs to, you know, use that piece of equipment, that we shouldn't be paying $150, $200 an hour for a piece of equipment to do that when we already own that equipment.
Right.
That's how, you know, that's how you're gonna justify the owning that equipment. And that, you know, that was the board's, you know, the board wanted that sweeper, and that's what, you know, that's why we purchased it and we bought the brand new skid steer.
Got a question, who's using the skid steers?
The transfer station is only Kenny, unless we're loading a truck. If it's a loaded truck, Aaron does it, but any other work up there is just, I believe, Kenny. And I believe the only one who uses it here is Corey.
Okay,
Yep, it's just me.
I just want to make sure because. Like Hammond lumber, if you drive a forklift, you have to have forklift training and be certified on forklift. I don't know if that's something we need to make sure that we do some kind of certification so that we don't get.
Gordon Lynn, there is nothing for the skid steer. They do a safety, it's in their book. Corey may be able to answer if it's in his book. Or not,
Yeah,
but
it's in a book that we have from, I don't know if it's, we go over it. It's a yearly thing. We gotta,
Okay, I just want to make sure that's getting done. I just don't want something to happen.
no, it's a Lynn thing, so.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, so
Okay,
on page 1 under legal services, what is this $87 charge?
Page 1,
Yeah,
oh, Bernstein, sure.
what is that?
Probably the property sale, maybe.
So I've got 1,100 for the monthly retainer. The 87 is Barnett versus Susie. For $87, there's, I think that's it. Yeah, that's broken down as call and correspondence. And then various correspondence regarding acceptance of service of complaint.
Okay, and that looks like, looks like it's gonna move forward, right?
Excuse me?
That's the one that's still kind of pending.
Yes.
Okay, anything else?
Yeah, I just did put a question on the library book trucks because the request was made to come out of capital reserve. And I thought that the board did approve purchases out of capital reserve. So, but I know we didn't approve that. So I'm wondering how that happens. Is there something I don't know, do we not approve if it comes out of capital reserve if it's under a particular amount? It's not like I'm saying that that wasn't a justifiable expense, but the email went out that this request was being made. And then now it's on the warrant.
The request was made and I think the response was to check state surplus first, which Jared did. And they didn't have anything.
Right, but if something is coming out of a capital reserve, I'm just checking to see what our policy is, because normally.
I do not know that there is a policy.
Miss Marianne, where is that?
No, but I think if you look in the annual report, I think it says that on the, it may not say it, it may be, but it usually the capital reserve, the board of select persons has to approve any expenditures coming out of the capital reserve.
That's what I thought.
But don't quote me on it.
And there's no dollar amount.
No dollar amount, any.
So that's on me. Jared called and let me know that there wasn't anything at state surplus and
But don't quote
I told him
Yeah,
to go
so
ahead
it's
and
just, I
report
put
it.
a question by it and I put a question for the board approval.
But
I just.
That's my
But we did approve them buying it if they didn't have it from the state.
We didn't.
Oh, we did.
The email question went out and it never came before the board,
Yeah,
so
we did.
that's why, no. It just came by in an email.
This one we talked about last meeting.
No, so if we can just check on that, if there's a capital reserve, what's the process? Just to be sure that we.
Yeah, that is my fault.
Okay, any other questions on warrant 39?
We're online.
Okay,
Okay,
all in favor? Here,
Yes.
no,
Yes.
Carol,
yes,
Dan,
Yes.
Barbara, yes, 5 in favor.
I didn't get the motion and second. Who did that? I'm sorry.
So she made the motion when she opened the warrant and I seconded that.
Okay, thank you.
And so does this beg the question, we need to have a policy developed to outline and distinguish when you go to capital reserve versus not? It sounds like that's maybe an unclear thing.
I mean, most departments know, I mean, that you come to the, you may get prices for stuff, and you come to the board. And then you say, the rec does it all the time, the fire department, transfer station. You come to the board, and you say, hey, I need, we would like to request $2,000 from capital reserve to purchase this bookcase, for instance. And the board gives the okay to go to capital reserve, but most all departments know that. So.
And I don't object, I'm just
Yeah.
asking. Maybe the answer is no, maybe we don't need a policy. I don't
Or
want to
maybe just let the department heads know, department heads know, I mean, I'd have thought they would have known that already, but.
I don't know. All right, anyway, just a question.
Okay. Okay, so finish with warrants.
finish with warrant, yeah. Oh, no, we've got warrant number 40.
Oh,
We've got 40 and 41.
oh, they're in my box.
Well, 40.
There's 41.
Maybe if they might be, Barbara, because I think I may have put them in after you picked. You did pick yours up Monday, early.
Monday.
Barbara's-
Yeah.
Right.
Okay,
And then she said that they can go.
and 40 I can sign. I signed for both of these, so I know better. Okay, so, I move that we consider warrant number 40, the payroll warrant for 4/5/23 in the amount of $19,241.03.
Second that.
Any discussion? All in favor, Peter?
Yes.
Yes. Carol?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Barbara, yes, okay, 5 in favor. And warrant 41. I move that we consider warrant 41. In the amount of $20,000, $20,319.82. Inland Fisheries and Wildlife, State of Maine, DMV, Treasurer State of Maine, and Treasurer State of Maine.
I second that.
Any discussion? All in favor, Dan?
Yes.
Carol?
Yes.
Melanie?
Yes.
Barbara, yes, okay, all in favor.
Okay,
Wait, is this, who's this?
Huh?
I'm not gonna keep them.
Okay,
You can have it for you.
No, I don't need it. I'm gonna leave it. Okay.
Yeah, can I make a request that at the next meeting that we have the broker attend, who's handling the Dalton properties, we keep kicking that can down the thing and the packet of finishing a Dalton and the town manager's report. But we've got to get on that and get a handle on that.
Would be, yeah, that.
Well, that's in the town manager's report, I think, right? What needs to be done still?
That's just
on the radar.
property, but
Yeah.
not on the
Yeah.
broker.
Yeah,
okay, so town manager's report.
It's pretty lengthy, so I won't read it all. Hopefully you've all have had an opportunity to look it over. Probably the biggest things, or one of the follow-ups, I listed Center for All Seasons. That's been a topic for a little bit. What has been spent on that? So Corey actually worked with Nick and went back and got those figures. I thought it was in the.
it's like in the
I'm
fourth page.
looking.
It's on the 4th page of your report.
Okay, yep, so that might be of interest, if you haven't had time to look at everything on the report, it gives you each year what was spent, repair.
Actually, it seems fairly modest.
It
I would
is
have thought
very-
there was a lot
yeah.
more.
Yeah,
And there has been. So I think that we need some more broken out of those. Because there was what, maybe 10 years ago? Well, not even 10 years ago, and this is the last couple of years, but there's been some extensive work done there that when money came out of their capital reserve.
Would that
So
have been
maybe-
before 2019?
And there's
Yes.
been,
Yeah, no, I mean, I knew there was a
Yeah.
lot more, but I'm saying just looking from 2019 till now,
But
looks
some-
like it's fairly
Some
modest.
of the extensive stuff that was done there was covered by insurance, so I do know. Oh. Cause we had sprinklers break and do a lot of water damage.
Yeah, but we also had to put a bunch of insulation up in there back a few years ago in one area.
Actually, I think that was also done in insurance bank, that broke the water main and we redid, I didn't, but the insulation got redone and it's spray, they did a lot of spray foam.
yeah, so I guess with this, I know it does say other repairs have been done and paid for that are not included. So maybe we need more of a kind of a spreadsheet. This was what the repair was, this is what the cost was, this is what. the-
Right, this is what could be pulled from Trio.
Okay, I thought you said this came from Corey.
Yes, but he worked with Nick, and so this is what got pulled from Trio.
Okay, and were there some, I know he was gonna, go to the Center for All Seasons, because Lily had kept really good records and was gonna try to get that information or some of that stuff that had been done for this meeting.
Corey, are you there?
I am here, but I did not get anything from the Center All Seasons. I didn't realize that there would be any expenditures stored at the Center for All Seasons.
I have records on things that have been done. Cause I know
Well,
some, Lily had kept really good records on some of that stuff, and her mom, who was the rec director prior to her. So I was thinking when you had talked about that, that was one of the resources that you were gonna tap to see what was there for records that we could use in compiling.
I will check with Dan tomorrow morning and see if he has seen anything of such over there, and absolutely, I'll make copy of it so you guys can get it.
Yeah, because I know you was putting together kind of like a manual, so I was just wondering if there was any of that there. So we can find all the stuff hidden under the new stones and put it all into one book for you.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Cory. I have a question on the first page on 8 Dalton property. There's a question. It says exclusion for pests. Question mark, is that pets?
No, that's
What's that?
Terminex.
Oh, that's terminus. Okay, okay. I didn't know if the exclusion was. meaning
Another
excluding
important-
Pets from the property.
Another important piece on the town manager report are the three things, the dispatch contract for the state. So it's giving you a look at it now. I'll include it for April 18th for you to approve or not. I also provided 2 job descriptions. Those are the 2 new positions. So you have an opportunity to look at those and then finalize April 18th.
April 18th.
And the other one is a policy for fire and rescue for vaccinations, and it simply follows main EMS rules.
Do
But
we
there's
not
no-
have one now?
There is not
Okay.
one. So Dan and I have talked about this a couple of times. So I put something together, sent it over to Travis and Danielle to take a look at. He sent it back with a few changes. It should probably go to Phil just to do a legal review. But that, I'm hoping that you all will be able to take a look at that and we can maybe approve or not, so that I can get that to Phil by the next meeting. Because we do have a situation. It's
Town manager report is
Yeah, it's-
probably about
there's a lot of stuff.
2, 3, 4,
Yeah, there's a lot.
5. Page 5 is the one with the fire department.
This is some of the stuff
Or
that the
state.
chiefs are working on.
Then eventually you have this,
The,
wait to the end. just about-
so the state dispatch contract, we missed that one
It's page 1 of 3.
this year as part of our normal budget.
No, we factored in, I think we put it as a little bit higher,
Okay,
knowing that it
Just wanted to
would
make
probably
sure.
be a little bit higher. I've already checked with Nick on it.
okay.
It's not a lot higher, so we should be okay with this.
And I
budget.
noticed you've got down that it needs voter approval,
Well, it's
I
the
don't know.
multi-year thing.
but I don't know if this needs voter approval because we legally have to sign it. We have to have, we can't opt out of it.
I was looking at it from the viewpoint of a multi-year contract.
Yeah.
Because you're obligating a future town meeting to pay
Yeah, well, that should be covered under the. Yeah,
the perpetuity
We're
when
putting
you
that
pass
forward.
that,
But
right?
I think legally we have to sign this. It doesn't matter if they have a 10-year contract, you know, we have to sign for the 911 services legally.
Right, well, yeah.
It's like counting. I mean, we have no choice to do it.
So those are things for you all to look at, and maybe hopefully we can get those finalized at your next meeting, but I
Yeah,
wanted to
and
get them to you now.
Yeah, it's very helpful to have
So
them
that you-
2 weeks ahead.
So that you got them.
Yeah, there's a lot of reading.
I know, sorry.
Well, no, I mean, there are things that
No,
you need to read.
I'd,
It's just a
I'd,
lot
I'd
of-
rather have all this information than not.
I also included behind the vaccination policy for fire and rescue, I gave you the main EMS rule. So that you could take a look at that. I pulled that directly from the website.
Okay.
Great, thank you.
So we're not actually creating something other than a policy that really
Policy.
specifically speaks for Belgrade. But
Yeah.
it's using the information and rule from main,
And basically, we have to go on a medical call, we have to already follow the main EMS anyway, so.
Yeah.
I mean, we're basically all pretty much doing it, it's just.
But there is-
question
I-
came up, and-
Right, a question came up, if someone weren't vaccinated, what can they do within the
Right.
department? So there was no policy. With this policy, it makes it really clear so that it protects that person performing the task. It protects the time.
The town,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, makes sense.
Lorna, can you touch on the boil water thing a little bit more?
We met with Aaron morning, myself, Dan Blatching, Bruce, Corey, and Hans. I don't know what it's called, Bruce, the thingy on the thing.
So basically, so that system, which we got a good education today, the guy was very
It
great.
was super.
It was stuff I had no clue that we were supposed to be doing as a town for reporting, that we found out hasn't been done since Phil was gone. So we've been unfortunately not on the right procedures. And we found out that there's a lot of stuff, but there's virtually, so that water system in that building, we cannot touch it without basically their approval, well, the state's approval. Which somewhere in this town office is, there's that policy somewhere and never ever got sent on to entities like itself.
Like the town plumber.
Yeah, know that. So
So sorry, just in real quick, Bruce. Do the Dalton properties also fall under that?
no, reason the Center for All Seasons falls under that could be children. It had so many
So it's a
children.
public water system.
It's a public water system.
But if we're providing an underwater treatment system for someone who's renting from us who.
That doesn't count because it isn't over 10 people.
Okay.
It's not a public.
So we'll have to rent to families of 9 or less.
Less than.
So, and it doesn't, and it's not like a family of 9 to 10.
Yeah, I know.
So it's really kind of weird how this works. That's how we found out about the public, for the triangle here. But, so how it works is so it's for big daycares. And the Center for All Seasons falls under a big daycare because of the summer program.
And they have after school.
Right, they have the after school. The after school is pretty close to the deadlines. I don't know if it's exactly 10 kids. I'm just throwing that number up there. I know it's because of the children that were there. So nothing on that water system can be touched without their approval. Okay, which nothing I knew about until today. So the reverse osmosis we have at the point system, we have to deinstall. We cannot have that in. Basically, we can do a whole building one, but he does not recommend it. He won't discourage it, but we have to get it approved through approved through DHS, has to have an engineer stamp. And then also you have to prove that the septic system is a big process and a very expensive process. So the thing which be nice if the state would publicize this. So the state does not require a uranium system. They don't not recommend it, but they don't require it for a public water source until it hits over 300 parts per million. But as we get safe drinking water tests back from the agencies, the federal EPA level is 30. Okay, that's the federal. The state is higher than that. So I know when it comes to real estate, anything that's over 30 parts per million, which is EPA, a homeowner has to put a system in to be able to sell the product, because it comes back listed as not drinkable water, which it is comes back on the water test, it's non-drinkable, it's a red flag. So we don't have to have that system there. So we were supposed to be doing bi-weekly reports and sending them to DHS, which hasn't been done since Bill was gone. Then bi-weekly reports and taking a chlorine check and make sure there's chlorine in the water, because we have a chlorine injection system there. Which we did a test today and the injector is not working, so, which, if the test was being done. So I tried to get the test kit, couldn't find one, but Corey did a lot of digging. Corey found the test kit that was being used. It was in a back room in some draw somewhere, he just died going through stuff and found, started digging. So we do have a test kit, the guy gave, he gave us some tablets to use if we need be, so the parts are ordered for the the chlorinator pump. They should be in Thursday. We'll get the chlorinator back on, get it all up to snuff. Meanwhile, we're gonna do that, I take the chlorination tank out, scrub it, wash it, put it back into the can. And he said he recommend say only going a half a tank, not a full tank. And maybe in the summer months, go to full tank when we're at full capacity and go to half a tank, man.
Because chlorine, which I didn't know.
I didn't even think you told us, but I mean,
Loses its effectiveness, even the bottles of bleach you buy off the shelf, most of them, by the time you purchase, are at 50%.
Really?
yeah. Well,
I didn't know that.
That guy didn't either, I'm like.
Do they? When if
No
they ever
wonder I
use by day.
So much with bleach.
He was really super though, I think he could have made our life miserable. but
miserable, but he was very
he was
very educational, very
very nice.
helpful.
He was very nice.
And, he's willing to come back and help us do other stuff if need be, or answer any questions, and so he was very good. So, like I said, unfortunately, I gotta, somebody, somewheres along the line before, knew that this stuff had to be done and it never got forwarded on.
But now we know.
Now we know, and so my suggestion, talking to Lorna and talking to Corey is. And I think we need to go on more of this, more conversation and bring it back to you guys, what we come up with, between the three of us or four of us, Dan should be involved in it too. Come up with a kind of a plan. I think it should be a two-person thing, a kind of a two-person check thing. I think it should
There
be.
should be a manual
Yeah.
that says,
Yeah.
this is what needs to be done,
Yeah.
this is the season, this is the time. I'm
Yeah.
gonna say it a
And I
thousand
think-
times until it gets done.
Every facility and every department should have a manual.
Absolutely.
It's gonna, and it's gonna, on Corey's behalf or facility's behalf, it's gonna take a lot of time for him to get this stuff done, because it's we all said it, we're throwing a lot at him, man. Same with Lawn, I mean, we're throwing a lot at Lawn, it's, they're both just barely dipping their toes in.
Right, but that isn't just on Corey.
No.
While Dan is at, so what I've always said is treat the buildings that you're in all the time like they're your homes. Set up a chart, what needs to be done in the spring, what needs to be done in the summer, what needs to be done in the fall. And all those pieces, the folks who are there, like Dan and the food pantry for the North Belgrade Community Center, folks in the town office can be contributing to that. So that we've got a comprehensive thing, so that it doesn't matter who's running it, these stay with the building so that stuff doesn't fall off
Okay.
like that.
So like this, I think it should be, I recommend 2 copies, because this is a very, we could have really got into some big trouble. Because there hasn't been a record done since 20, was it, Lauren?
I think so.
So, that's 3 years, we haven't had any records sent in, and, they was lenient, they're like, we're gonna let it go this time.
So-
We're gonna use this as an education, and he told us, he said, this happens, this isn't a once like the reverse osmosis thing, he said, this is an everyday thing. He said, this happens all the time, he says, until you get educated, he says, there's paperwork, somewhere is, you guys got paperwork stating all the rules and regulations, but I knew we had to have a yearly water test, I didn't realize it had to be a quarterly water test on that building. So Corey's so once we get things all up to snuff, we're gonna work to try to get the chlorinator back off. It takes a year to do that. It's gonna take a lot of work with Corey for testing. It's all sent to DHS for the testing, but to try to get us off the chlorination system. Because I believe how we ended up on the chlorination system is what happens, if you get popped into that chlorination is 3 bad tests. And if I remember right, the 3 bad tests, they did not, they just kept taking a test and sending it in, take a test, and then they they never shocked the well, they never, you know,
Yeah, because there's usually the follow-up with the shock and then the test.
and that
after
never
that.
got done. Only thing that got done is I sealed the well cap.
And like disinfecting where you're taking the
Bleach.
water from,
Yeah.
like he said, take a Dixie cup and fill
Yeah,
it with
bleach.
some bleach and,
Yeah.
you know, stick your faucet in there
Cause you,
so that it
right,
kills everything.
Kills everything.
You
Let
look
the
at-
water run 5 minutes and then get your sample.
you look at a test
That
that
wasn't
the,
done
the
properly.
prior facility manager had done. Every one of the tests had failed, that he had done, one of them. So Mary went around with him, and showed him and instructed him how to properly take a water test. And then the next test came back, they all were fine. You
Because
know,
it wasn't the thump that's hanging out in there above that screen.
yeah,
Right, seriously though.
yeah, and bathroom faucet, you cannot take it, from you can never take it from bathroom faucet, even though you bleach it, ever. Because that's the most dirtiest, nastiest faucet in the world. And regardless how much bleach you put through it or this and that, you cannot kill the bacteria in the bathroom faucet.
What about this
As far as
reverse osmosis
watching
system that we
somewhere.
paid a lot of money for and we can't
It's
use?
not a lot of money.
Oh.
Well, it is, in my eyes it is, but it's, you know, we can't use it anymore, no. It's gotta be the install. I shut it off today. I gotta
So
go.
can it be installed if we do the proper steps or
No,
No.
no?
No, a reverse osmosis can never, an at point reverse osmosis, it never can go on a, how do you say that, a public, that,
a public water
Public
system
water system.
because you're at point A and you're chlorinating, you're
right,
putting
they
the
call it
bleach in,
chlorination out.
right? To disinfect and make safe water.
So,
So at the end point where it comes out, it must be clean and
have chlorine in
chlorinated
it,
water.
right.
But it's not because it has this
The
other,
membrane, there's a membrane in it, pulls the chlorine
Yeah.
out.
So
So
what do we
if
do
we
with
get,
that system?
well, for now, we'll mothball it. We'll take and dump the filters out, bleach it, make sure it stays clean. So if we get, so we can get rid of the get rid of the chlorination system, then we can ask for approval to go back for that point.
Okay, all right.
the guy was really great.
It was, I mean.
We learned a lot.
Yeah, I mean, Corey had more time than I had an hour, an hour with him. I had other obligations, but I had an hour with him and it was, a very, so I think we got it in hand now, unfortunately. We need to get, like Melanie said, but then I said, if I'd have known that this stuff needed to be approved by DHS and this and that, somewhere in this office is the paperwork stating that, or maybe it's at the center, at the center for all seasons. I don't know where that paperwork.
Should ask Anthony while he was here, he knew where it was.
No, I don't think he did, because I don't think he had any idea of it either, because the only documentation, anybody's documentation was Phil's.
Yeah, I think that was 2019 too,
Yeah.
from the last time Phil sent one in.
And he said everything prior to that was all Phil. Phil. So I think Phil was the only one that honestly knew.
That had been there long enough to continue doing what needed to be done.
It was his job. He left. No, we didn't fill that position right away, correct? So there's no one to do it.
Okay,
And,
Okay.
seeing as it's 10 o'clock, is there any other business? Any other questions for the town manager or the town plumber?
I know it's another half hour, you must call it 10:30.
No, please.
Motion to, oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I was just to let you know, I have a HR training tomorrow.
Excellent.
Okay.
All right, I'll make that motion that we adjourn.
I second.
All in favor? Jan, Daryl?
Yes.
Yes, yes,
Yes.
yeah, 5 yeses. We're done. Thank you, everybody.
I wanted to reach out last night, slap you up.
Me,
No, I wanted to reach out and slap them.
slap my husband?
Yeah.
Uh-oh, that's fighting words.
I was at the state until 9 o'clock last night,
You were?
because they're doing those gun bills.
Oh, yes, yeah.
The sheriff from Cumberland.
No, I